to the Film Caffeine podcast. Here with Mithy and Scribe.
Hello,
Uh,
hello.
yep, here we are again. This time it's not 3 a.m. That's it's only 12 a.m. That really makes a big difference, right? I mean,
We did get a little more mature about that. We
yeah,
decided maybe we shouldn't sleep deprive ourselves. Although, I mean, I hear you stayed up 2 nights in a row.
yeah. We'll talk about that. But I think. Yeah, I mean, we'll probably. I honestly, I might pull another all-nighter tonight too. I have a lot of other shit that I might watch.
From
So
experience, would not recommend it. You
I would,
start
I would,
hallucinating.
I might. But then again, we're recording this on a Friday, so you never know.
Yeah,
I might get drunk off of insomnia. So yeah,
yeah,
I
would
don't
not
have eye
recommend it.
bags. I wouldn't have eye bags. I don't have eye bags.
I don't get them either. Actually,
I don't.
after all the pole nighters, actually don't get them.
I don't know if that's I don't know what's wrong with us. We should, I feel like I should be getting eye bags, but I don't.
Yeah,
But yeah.
maybe it's just I remember back in the day I used to only sleep for like 5 hours a day and I do like 3 hours of exercise. So honestly, it might be that
Yeah,
I I don't
maybe.
know.
I don't know. The only way you can know is try, right? So I think what I'm going to do
Yeah,
for the next week is just not sleep and see if any eye bags show up. Because
yeah.
that's healthy.
I think
Yeah,
that's a fair experiment. I'd
yeah.
say nothing could go wrong. Although I will say on the bus today, I genuinely felt like I could see like a ferret going seat to seat, like under the seat, and I was getting freaked out for what. And then I realized that what was actually happening was it was a dream, and I was about to wake up, and then it was so surreal, not really knowing that it was a dream. It was just weird.
Yeah, I mean, what have I don't even remember a lot of my dreams. I had this really weird fucking dream about Batman that was,
Mm,
but like, I don't remember anything about that. But
yeah,
there
but
was
I mean,
something about Batman and Batman dying. I remember
yeah.
that. So spoiler alert for the Matt Reeves Batman movie.
Oh
Batman
yeah,
didn't die because I dreamt it, and I have full control of Warner Brothers.
yeah.
So
You
yeah.
you 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 have infiltrated their
No,
higher
no, not
ups.
I've always been Warner Brothers.
Oh,
I
so
I was
wait, Mithy. So when's the Snyder cut coming out?
yeah, about that. I got drunk one night.
If your answer is any later than 2 months, you are wrong.
Why do you? This isn't off topic, but I do have to ask. Do you think the Snyder Cut will actually come out?
Okay, so actually, for the longest time, I didn't even know what that meant. Like, I still really don't understand what that means. Like,
Yeah. So like,
Did he make like more stuff other than BVS, or did he like? Is it like just a script that's like not really acted out? Like, I'm confused. I
I
heard
think
that Batman
so.
was like Superman's brother in this script. I was like, what?
That's the BVS thing. The Snyder Cut is separate because the Snyder
Okay,
Cut. What happened with the Snyder Cut was Zack Snyder was there. He had five. He essentially had five films planned out,
right,
starting with Man of Steel to BVS to the Justice League film to a sequel Justice League film to the final film. Right. So the first film was Man of Steel. We all know how that went. Then was
right,
BVS, and he wanted to get into some territory with Batman and Superman being brothers, but he didn't
right,
go down that route. And I think he also acknowledged that that was sort of a weird rabbit hole to go down. But then after that, Justice League was supposed to be slightly darker, more focused on a lot of the different stuff with Apocalypse and Darkseid too. I know there was a big
right.
focus on that. Then the fourth film was supposed to be the Justice League like going to Apocalypse with I think one of the Green Lanterns or something like that. And it was their Infinity War in a way, except it was like the Justice League was Thanos going around, but
Okay.
like they would lose. So they would
See,
essentially, yeah, it was weird. It was like Lois Lane dies at the end of that. Superman becomes like
oh.
evil Superman,
So
and
he had
then the
a
fifth,
full on plan, and
yeah,
it
yeah,
seems like okay, that makes more sense. Because in my mind, when people like that gives a little bit more like understanding for me of why people say they want the Snyder cut so bad, unless they're all just
yeah.
joking. I mean,
But
are they all joking?
the problem with this whole Snyder Cut thing, there's really two problems. One is the fact that the Snyder cut that everyone talks about is the version of Justice League that Zack Snyder filmed before he left the project due to a tragic event in his family, right?
Right, right.
So what the thing is, he filmed a good amount of these scenes, and then he left. But the thing
Okay.
was, it wasn't really a completed vision of any kind. He was still filming, and they were still mid production. So one,
Right.
it wasn't complete per se, and even if it was complete, it was very like no reshoots were done. It was all like a straight through cut, and like no one really it wasn't even pieced together. I think like timeline wise, or it wasn't even edited at all. Because then they brought in Joss Whedon to fix it, quote unquote fix the movie and finish the reshoots and everything like that. Um, People think that the Zack Snyder version of it still exists, and Zack Snyder has also, I think, gone back and forth to say like, "Oh yeah, I have it," and "Oh yeah, it's a thing," and I know Jason Momoa said something about, "Oh yeah, get ready for the Snyder cut" or something, and everyone knows like how the Snyder cut people spent like $20,000 on billboards during Comic Con to just say
Right.
release the Snyder cut, and I mean
Well,
that the one problem is that it could be like not well edited. The other problem is just are you really gonna mess with it now after like 2 years? But
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
in the end, I guess I don't know. I mean, the Snyder Cut sound for me. I always kind of wondered why people were so obsessed about it because in my mind, it was just kind of like maybe like 20 minutes of like footage that like they never actually completed or edited. But the way you saying it, he straight up had a blueprint of what was to come. It seems, and
Yeah,
I mean, hate or love DC. It sounds like a pretty good blueprint. It sounds like it could have been good if it
it
was like the.
was. I have
I
heard a
mean,
lot of yeah, I've heard a lot of stuff on it, like
I
being
mean,
like
I think with
positive and
DC,
negative.
I think with DC, you can kind of do literally anything as long as it's not way over the top and executed perfectly. I mean,
Yeah, like Joker, for example.
yeah,
You
yeah,
could go that direction, and you could produce something that works, or you could
yeah.
produce something that doesn't. Who knows?
Because I don't know, was the demand for a Joker solo movie very high? I don't think
No,
really
I don't
anyone
think
asked for it.
people did. No one really asked for it other than Todd Phillips. Todd Phillips keeps talking about how for years he went to Warner Brothers saying, "I want to make this film," and finally, during the whole thing going on with Justice League
Right,
and not a lot of Shazam really didn't make a lot of money. I mean, Shazam wasn't in this thing, but like BBS didn't make that as much money as they wanted, and Justice League definitely did not make as much money as they wanted. And I think
right.
in that they turned to quote Alvin, they turn to a man that they don't completely understand. That was a
Yeah.
horrible Michael Caine accent, but yeah, it was. I mean, the people. Todd Phillips was not really known for making a Joker type film, but he did, and I mean, it's winning awards and a
That's
decent
good, yeah.
amount of good reviews, and I can't wait for it to come out and watch it. So
Yeah, I got tickets this Friday. As I
yeah,
said.
I need to get tickets soon. I don't
I
know
get
when I'm gonna
next
do
Friday
that.
actually technically, but
Yeah.
but basically, final thoughts on this little subtopic of ours. I think my thing is that if you really look at like movies, I think movies that no one asks for is still fine. It doesn't always
Yeah.
have to be like, oh, I like Solo for me. I think was a great movie, and I think at some point I do want to make a sort of like
Oh
a
no,
look back to it.
I feel the hate comments coming in right now.
I mean,
It's
I
like
don't
a
understand why you would hate someone loving a
yeah.
movie
No,
because
yeah,
like
yeah. That's a different criticism, I think, almost
yeah,
for another time. But like
yeah,
I also I watched Solo. My roommate told me that Solo was a great movie, and I was like, I'm not that big of a Star Wars fan. I
yeah,
literally just watched Last Jedi on a flight and like snips and snaps of all the different other movies. But
right.
I watched Solo and I was like, you know what? Uh, for lack of a better term, a solo entity, it's a good movie. I
Yeah,
know I do agree with the people who are like, they should have just called it Kessel Run and a Star Wars story, and then it should have been about more like we should have gotten a little bit more of the full team interacting with each other than just
yeah,
the weird Han Solo dice and how he got his blaster and how he met Chewbacca and he was about to eat him and stuff. And I do understand those complaints, but as a full movie as its whole, I think with the stuff going on with the Last Jedi and with all of that going on, these movies underperformed. So
Yeah,
I
I,
think
I just thought
demand
it
is
was a fun movie. I just thought it was a really fun. I mean, I've watched that movie in the last 2 months. I think I've watched that movie 4 more times. For
really.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. I was kind of obsessed with the movie when I first watched it. We watched it with some of my dorm mates. I watched the movie. I think I've watched the movie a total of 7 times now, and the last time was one of my friends showing him for it for the first time. The other three were just like, one of them was with my brother, one of them was in a car ride because we got it from Redbox, and it
Yeah,
was
I mean, yeah, I think Solo is definitely going to be like one of those lost gems in a way. Like
yeah.
after in another like 10 or 15 years people are going to be, "Oh yeah, remember that one Star Wars
No,
movie?"
no, no, no. In 5 years, there's gonna be another YouTuber that's gonna make a video of the tragedy of Solo or some stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
calling it right now.
Maybe
I
we
might make
do.
that video. I
Yeah,
will
we
make
should
that
be
video.
we should be the ones to make that video.
I will call it and then I will make it. So technically, I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I have to wait 5 years until it's sort of
Yeah.
like passed out of memory. But
We're
anyways,
we're in the end game, right?
yeah,
Or
we're
we're
in
in the
the
long game, but
yeah,
I
yeah,
need an end game pun. But
yeah.
yeah,
But
anyway, yeah,
today's topic.
oh yeah, before we talk, what have you been doing lately,
Oh
past couple
yeah.
days?
Well, I've been kind of going into the darker trenches of the internet, and when I say that, I don't mean like actually dark. I just
Please don't tell
mean
me you've been watching a lot of
no, no,
darknet
no.
stuff.
No, no. I personally, I think for my own sanity, I don't even want to attempt to go there. I know some people that say they do, but who
So
knows?
yeah,
Really, people say they
it's a
do.
cool guy move, right? He's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm
Honestly,
so cool.
you could say by not actually doing it, you could say I went to the darknet and make up the most mucked up thing, and people will believe you because that stuff probably does
Yeah, no one
exist.
really. Yeah, no one. I don't intend to know what exists there, but yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
What
but
have you been doing?
I went on Wattpad. So
Oh God.
yeah, I used to when I was like 14 and I was starting into writing, someone told me about Wattpad and it was basically like, wow, it's YouTube but for writing. I was like, that's pretty cool. I went on it, didn't really know what it was about, posted a few things, really bad stuff, didn't get any views, got sad, got over it. Proceeded to meet my one of my friends named Michaela said everyone on that site is really bad and the ones that are good don't even get noticed. And I look at and today I was looking at stuff and I, one of the top Wattpad books for 2017 is called "I'm a Gay Wizard." You know, I mean, should,
What the?
yeah, I mean, I think it's maybe satire. I don't know, but I mean, hey,
The
more
more you
power to
think
you.
something is satire, the less likely it is actually satire.
Yeah,
I
but I
think.
mean,
So who knows? That
the other one was like about like I mean that one is just really over the top with its title. I've even read it and it just seems like it is satire. Or
yeah.
if not, then more power to the person. He made a story that appealed to a lot of people, but whatever, you can read what you want. But some of
Mhm.
them are, just weird. I've heard that for some reason toxic relationships are very popular on there and mostly read by I would assume teenage girls. And I'm like, I guess it's
Teenage boys with guilty pleasures,
yeah,
probably.
it could be, but I mean, who knows? Honestly, I apparently that's like all the rave now. I mean, you see 50 Shades of Grey, that literally was a fan fiction off of a Twilight,
The lady like typed it in her blackboard or something like that.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. It just, I mean, I'm not really hating on these
Blackberry,
things.
not
I'm just
blackboard.
saying it's kind of sad that a site meant for writing, which I mean they do. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying it's kind of sad that the only stuff on there is this. And it's kind of like a vicious cycle because people know that and then they refrain from going
And they
there.
just
So then
keep
you,
going there. I mean,
yeah,
that's the thing with any platform, even YouTube to a
yeah.
degree. It's like,
I mean, at least
after a
YouTube
while, it's just
has.
clickbait. So,
I mean, YouTube, I feel like has such a diverse range of videos, but
mm,
considering this is books, and if you really look at
it's somewhat niche. Yeah, it
it,
doesn't.
it
Not
I mean, I
everyone who
wouldn't say
knows
it's
about
niche.
books, like
I
everyone who
wouldn't say
knows about.
niche.
Yeah, I mean, everyone who knows about videos knows about YouTube, but not
Yeah,
everyone who reads a lot
yeah,
of books
yeah,
goes to Wattpad, I think.
yeah.
So,
And I mean, I went away from Wattpad when I was like 15 because
yeah.
I was like, I'm not going anywhere with it. and whatever. It's some cringy stuff that's not my cup of tea. But another thing is, it's also like it, it's just sad that you can't really go anywhere even if you are very good at writing. Because honestly,
Mhm.
if you look at the writing alone of the people that are top, they're not. It's not very good.
Yeah.
I'm not really one to talk. My writing is not very good either, but I'm just saying you don't have to be a master writer to know what's bad writing. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to be a
Yeah.
film director to know what's a bad movie. So,
Yeah. I know one thing that people talk about when they talk about like giving their scripts and stuff to a lot of people. I know certain Discord servers, like especially like just to highlight one, like for example, High Top's Discord server. It can be like chaotic sometimes, but sometimes there are subreddits specifically for like, hey, just share your work, and if anyone clicks
yeah.
on it, they could react to it. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's how I think I would suggest for a lot of viewers, like if you do want to go ahead and share your work out. Maybe you're not really looking for views. It's hard to get views, but if you're just looking to just share it out there, definitely fan Discord servers and stuff like that is a place
Yeah.
to look at. So
But I mean, in the end, my final thoughts are I don't think it was really meant to be anything more than just a place to kind of fulfill your, write about your fantasies and stuff. Because in the end, what more could you really expect? Can
mm,
I don't mean that as like an insulting way. I just, a lot of it is
that's
fan
the
fiction.
way
Is
it works, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
and I mean, whatever.
yeah,
It is there. I don't have to read it, so I
yeah,
don't really have to be mad about it. So yeah.
yeah. You
So
know
what are we
how
talking about
we?
today?
So yeah. Oh yeah. You need to ask me what I did. Excuse me.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry. I am so sorry.
yeah.
Mithy, what did you do with your day?
Thank you for asking, Scribe.
I
Um,
am such a considerate and kind person that cares about and validates your
no,
opinions.
you know how we talked about how we pulled out an all-nighter like a couple of days ago?
Yeah,
Well, I did that consecutively. I did that yesterday as well.
nice,
So,
nice, as you should.
yeah, it is a surprise. That's why I'm saying it's a surprise that I don't have eye bags. But this is a weird topic, but do you know why I pulled an all-nighter?
Yeah, you told me about it, and
I
we didn't really talk about it. You said we'll
yeah,
save it for the
yeah,
podcast, and I was like, oh, okay,
yeah.
but yeah, what is it? Like,
It's so a lot of people like in our sort of, for lack of a better term, clique that we're in, sort of nerdy, sometimes even talking about like, like for example, like PewDiePie and like the H3 podcast and like that type of environment. Uh Shane Dawson. Not a lot of people look at Shane Dawson as like a creator or anything like that. It's like, oh yeah, he was an OG YouTuber. He made weird poop videos, and now he made a lot of conspiracy videos and stuff like that, like in the horror movie style. And then now he's making a lot of documentaries and stuff.
yeah,
And I was
he's gone through a lot of
bored.
phases.
To quote all the drama ladies, I was looking for some tea, right? Um,
Yeah,
and I back a couple months ago, I really followed the James Charles controversy a lot. Um,
yeah, yeah,
and I know Shane Dawson didn't really make a lot of content on that, but he released a trailer that might address some of the controversy surrounding that entire thing. And so I watched that trailer and I saw his Tanacon video. And I saw, the H3 podcast was also talking about Tanacon and stuff like that in a
yeah,
very early episode. And I was like, you know what? If you guys don't know about TanaCon, it was this weird thing where the YouTuber Tana Mangiano, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name. She tried to hold a convention the same day across the street from VidCon because she didn't get in, and it was a total disaster. They
oh
oversold
yeah.
tickets. There were people sunburnt outside. People being some people were hospitalized. Thank God no one was really seriously.
Wait. What do you mean by hospitalized? What happened?
She like had like a heat stroke. Um,
Oh, she got hospitalized.
no, no, not she. Like a couple of her fans, I think. Either one or a couple of her fans
Wait, what?
got.
Wait, really? Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I know. There was a lot of lies going around about that. People said, that yeah, we can oversell. Like there was a behind the scenes video of them talking. They're like, we can oversell tickets. It's like the capacity is like what 1,000, but we could sell 3,000 tickets or 4,000 tickets, and
So
yeah,
wait, people went to that, and I assume you're fans. But what did they
yeah.
do? Like,
People, the thing with that was people went there because they were her fans, but then also like Shane Dawson was invited and Bella Thorne was invited and a bunch of popular creators were invited onto this thing.
wait,
So a
wasn't
lot
there
of
a
their
thing with what's that guy? The prank video guy. The
Fuzi
he,
tube. Yeah,
yeah.
that happened. That was funny because that happened literally like a month after that, which was
Oh,
like
that wasn't that. Okay.
yeah. But the thing with that at least was his thing, as much of a chaotic mess it was. That's a whole other can of beans. At least his was free. Tanacon's was not free, and it was like a
Oh.
crazy, like it was a scam. It was to be put frankly, it was a
Well,
scam.
wasn't there
People
a
were
thing much like that for Jake Paul and his like little tour thing or whatever? Like,
I
it,
don't think that he ran into things with his tour. I know James Charles
well,
opened up a shop and that shut down like an entire mall or something
well,
like
like I've
that.
seen I've
But
seen videos I've seen videos of like Jake Paul's whole tour thing, like the actual like inside the tour, like like the
yeah,
actual
yeah, the
performance.
Drew Gooden video where he talked
Yeah,
about
yeah,
the thing.
that
Yeah,
one. That's the one that I
yeah.
watched.
I think
And
that was more of just a normal person stepping into the light of what it is to go to a Jake Paul concert, which is sort of
well, like
funny.
I don't know, I don't know. Do people like that, or is that like I said
Yeah,
he
it's
was
a
an
weird.
outsider, right?
Yeah,
It was a
yeah,
person
but
that's not used to that. So I want to know from like a person that actually watches a lot of Jake Paul and Logan Paul. I assume they
yeah,
watch
which
Logan Paul
is
as well.
yeah, which is the thing that the real concern was like since like Shane Dawson was like, yeah, yeah, it's a misstep, and yeah, that's fine. But the problem was so many of those people were his fans because they
Right.
were there to see him that he felt a sense of responsibility. So he decided to make like a weird documentary series, and it was a three-part series. Him talking. It's filmed. It's not. I mean, in those people suffered. Those 5,000 people suffered there, and
Hmm.
I don't mean to say anything about that other than that they really did suffer and it was a bad thing. But in comparison to so many like other things going around in the globe, it wasn't like the biggest thing in the world. There were so many other things going on at the
So
time,
wait, did they
especially
not book a building for that? Like it
they
seemed
did.
like.
They booked a building, a Marriott that had 1,000 people capacity,
Oh, okay,
but they
that's okay.
sold 5,000 tickets and said
Oh,
that
so
they
you're
could
saying 4,000 people were literally just outside
4,000 people were outside in like
and
a
just.
100-degree weather. There
Oh,
was
oh,
no food, no water, no catering of any kind. Even people
oh.
inside, it was way too crowded. Like a
So
thousand people is the
how
max
many
limit.
how much money was this event?
This was like all the tickets together collected. I think about like almost $400,000.
Whoa, for
Yeah, yeah,
5,000 people?
yep.
So wait,
Uh,
oh my god. That's
and
rid-
I think that it was more than just the people too. It was about the
Oh,
brand
wait, yeah.
sponsorships and
Yeah,
stuff
I
like that.
guess you're right. That was
But
stupid thinking that it would
yeah,
only be. Yeah,
I think
that's a lot of money.
yeah, but the whole thing was Shane made a video on it, right? He made a three-part series talking about it. It was sort of memed a little bit because she's crying in a
Wait, what?
sort of fake way
Oh.
on his shoulder and stuff like that. But as I watched it, and as a documentary series, like for people who know me, I don't watch horror movies. Like I know
Yeah.
Quiet Place is critically acclaimed, but I've barely watched clips from that movie because I'm scared to the bone. I'm a pussy. So I don't watch anything
Yeah.
horror. And this is like this gets on the borderline of horror, these
Yeah.
documentary series, but they don't quite cross that.
Well,
And
it
so I've
sounds. I
only
mean, it doesn't. Is it more horror or is it more like unsettling though? Because I mean, I would.
sort of unsettling. Like
Yeah, I wouldn't think of it as. I mean, I wouldn't think of a documentary being really horror without
yeah,
like
yeah.
being straight up
It just
horror.
gets on the it gets on the border of, that
Yeah,
it feels unsettling and
I have
watching
to
it.
watch it then. I feel like I kind
Yeah.
of do want to watch that. I do like
Yeah.
horror in general, but.
Yeah. So what I watched is so if you know Shane Dawson, he's made like in the past year that the most revolutionary thing that he's been doing is making these sort of web series documentary things where I mean, I myself don't know the full extent to how real a lot of these interactions are, but I
Mhm.
feel like they are very real. And at least the way they are filmed are done in such a way that it is very real. And the editing is superb. The editing in these documentaries is, regardless of the controversies, he did an 8-part series, each episode like 45 minutes or more. on Jake
Mhm.
Paul. 8-part
Oh.
series, each one 40, and I binge watched like all of these. The
Oh
reason
my
I was
god.
awake for 12 hours throughout the entire night because I was binge watching this series and I was watching his
Jeez.
other series. It was like,
Damn.
yeah, it's crazy long, but it's entertaining, and there is a horror, not a again, I keep saying horror, but there is an unsettling aspect to it because
Yeah,
he spends an
like
entire
this
episode
would
talking
you
about
more like
yeah,
w-
he spends an entire episode talking about sociopaths and the
oh.
traits of sociopaths, and it's
Oh,
like
I would watch
one of
that
the
actually.
scariest things I've seen.
Oh, I
And
actually
there
want
was
to watch that now.
criticism. Yeah, there was criticism for it online. There was crazy criticism for it
Wait, no,
online saying,
okay. Is it accurate? Like, cause okay, hear me out. Like, I know like that's a big topic, sociopaths, psychopaths. Quite
yeah,
literally,
yeah, yeah.
people throw
It
that
is.
term. Like, is it accurate to like
It is.
psychology?
He brings in a psychologist to talk about it. Like
Okay,
he
well,
brings in his psychologist to
so
talk
what's
about
the
it.
critics? What's the critiques about that one?
The critiques is because the series, just to analyze for now as an example, the Jake Paul series,
Right.
the the thesis, the beginning thesis, the argument was, is Jake Paul a sociopath? No one.
Oh.
Yeah, so he goes hardcore with that. He's like, these are what seem to be the traits of sociopaths, and so this
Oh.
he's like, is Jake Paul a sociopath? Because the way that he's been acting, the way that he's been manipulating people, the way that
Right.
he's gotten into, he has a couple of abuse allegations and shit like that, makes him seem like maybe he is on that side, and it made it out to seem like these sociopaths are like crazy, right? And in the episode, I sort of, if you're gonna watch it, I sort of don't want to spoil it, but
Right.
the therapist hits Shane with a line about like the sociopaths in today's world, and it
Right.
takes him like completely shook. And honestly, myself, I was like, frankly, I was like, what the fuck? That's true? That's impossible. I don't think that's true. But it is. There is a sense of elevated realism there because it's like, I don't. It's the editing plays into that, but that's the point. It's a documentary series. It's entertainment, and it plays into that, and it's beautifully edited. Like as a documentary, it's beautifully edited. The criticism behind that, you were talking about the critics. The critics were
Right.
like, "Come on, Jake Paul isn't a menacing evil person. He's just
Well,
you."
that's the thing. Okay, okay, like that's the thing about the misconception. People always think that sociopaths are just
Yeah, yeah,
inherently evil. That's
yeah.
not
But
really
that's
the
not really
case.
true. It's just that they have less emotion. They can't seem to
Well,
fathom.
it's not even that. Sometimes, like it's a very weird topic because it's mixed behind connotational like and media, but it's also like
Yeah.
so
And the thing is, Shane addresses this too later on. So it's not like he. The thing with the thing was like a lot of people criticize it for being so long. But the thing with it being long was it came out. It was episodic. He would release an episode, and like a week later he would film the next episode and he would release it. Like
yeah,
it was
yeah,
it was he was reacting to the pop culture as it was happening. So when people responded saying, "Hey, this sociopath shit isn't, we don't like this," he stopped that and he went a different angle. And I really respect that he did it that way, because a lot of people would just be like, okay, that didn't work, so we have to change
right,
something up, or we have to go another direction or something. Like we have to focus on a direction, we can't do anything. But he really adapted with his audience, and he adapted with everything going on. And even though I binged it a year later, a year later, yeah, I binged it literally a year later after this was released. It's still I enjoyed it thoroughly till the end. I still haven't finished the last episode just because I wanted to save that for like a time where I can focus and relax and watch that.
right.
But I would say if you haven't watched Shane's documentary series, or if you don't want to stay up all night like me and watch a bunch of
Yeah,
episodes, I would highly suggest. Recently he made, not recently, but he made a video, Internet Conspiracies with Shane Dawson. It's like if you go to his channel and you go to his uploads, it's like one of the fourth. It's either the fourth or the fifth one, and it's a two-part series. And he talks about like random conspiracies and stuff like that. Just to get you into it, I would suggest that episode. I think it's like an hour long, maybe it's
right.
less than that. But I would highly suggest that, because that thing, I haven't watched anything like that. I watch cape shit all the time. That's
Right.
really all I watch, and this was
Yeah.
something very different, and I really enjoy that. So it's sort of a
Yeah.
rant, but I wanted to get that out there, that this was something that I really really enjoyed.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But I
Brett,
mean,
I would highly suggest you watch it within the next while.
but yeah, before we go into the next topic
Yeah,
that I know of that we kind of planned for this one is the I mean, I'm gonna tell you right now, I've been always very fascinated with the idea of sociopaths and psychopaths. I've
yeah,
actually watched a few of the episodes of beginning episodes of Mindhunter. It's a TV show on Netflix, and it's a very dark show. It's a very mucked up show, and
yeah.
it's even more mucked up when you realize it's a real life story. Like every single, well, I don't know about every single, but a lot of the big name psychopaths and sociopaths they talk to and they interview in the show,
Like
it's a
actual criminals. Yeah,
yeah, they exist, and it's really mucked up, and I
yeah.
really recommend not watching it if you are
And I
like it
feel
is
like
this.
I'm that type of person. I was even like, it was night. It was like midnight, right?
Yeah,
And it was later than midnight. It was like 3 a.m., right? And I was watching the series, and even watching that, I was like scared, and I was like,
yeah. I
I
mean,
I felt uneasy.
see,
So
that's more like well, I guess that's not really paranormal, but you know what I mean. Like
it's
it's
not
more of like
paranormal, but it feels like,
yeah,
that
but
entire
this
vibe is,
but this
yeah,
show is not really scary. It's just disgusting. Like I
yeah,
don't mean
yeah.
like the quality of the show. The quality of the show is really good. I
Yeah,
mean
that's a sort
disgusting.
of that's almost sort of the same thing with the Shane Dawson series, is that it's
Yeah,
like it makes you feel uneasy.
yeah,
Especially I think the third episode of the Jake Paul
right.
series makes you feel very uneasy.
Yeah,
So
and I'm just saying, like this show, kind of like I don't know. I've always been fascinated by the fact that, like, one short example of like a sociopath story that I've heard, and like the psychopath sociopath. Even I'm not a genius on it. There is a difference between it. It's
yeah,
quite
I would
vague
highly suggest going to
for
a more reputable site for
yeah.
that type of
So
information.
for now, I'm just going to refer to any of these non-empath, like because I think the word for non-psychopaths and
Yeah,
sociopaths are people with
there's an antisocial something disorder, is what, like,
yeah, antisocial.
people
I'm just
like.
gonna refer to them as antisocial because antisocial is not actually when people say I'm antisocial and I don't talk to people. That's not what actually antisocial means. Antisocial means quite literally you are not fit to be in society. Like you are a bit of a stain to society. So when edgy teens in like high school were like, "Oh, I'm antisocial. I don't talk to anyone." It's like, well, no, that's not what you are. Its connotational different definition is very different than the actual medical definition. But anyways, beyond that, the antisocial, I got into the whole antisocial kind of like disorder stuff when around maybe like middle of high school. I started kind of like doing a little research on it. It was really fascinating me. I started watching a little bit of Dexter too. So but the point is there's a story where this girl who has antisocial disorder, one of them, and the therapist tells her that when people are crying, when people are sad, when people are visibly distressed, they are not faking it. Because this person, this I think she was like, I don't know what her age was, but I know it was on the younger side, maybe even like
Mhm.
late teenager to young adult. I don't think she really understood, like she couldn't really process the fact. She always thought that when people were crying they were faking it because it was a social thing. Like she thought it was like a social niche, not really niche. That's the wrong word. It was a social expectation for you to cry when you see a bad thing, not because you actually feel it, but
Yeah,
because it's like,
yeah. Which
yeah,
even they talk about in the web series too. Is like
right,
it's about doing stuff because those are what the norms you've learned are,
right,
not because
right.
you actually
And
feel those
in
emotions.
reality, and another example that I've been told by other people, and again take these with a grain of salt. I would recommend hearing these what I'm about to say and then doing your own research on it. I don't take these as fact. I'm in no means an expert. I'm merely telling you what I've heard and the little I've read. So one of the other things is like examples that I've been given is sort of the fact that these people don't, it's not like they don't feel emotion necessarily. It's not that they could be, but it's also more of the fact that they don't feel the inputs and outputs aren't really exactly what the norm are. So, for example, you're a kid in high school and your prom date says yes. Like you ask, um, you ask her out and she says yes, you're gonna feel very, very euphoric. You're gonna feel very happy. But for maybe an antisocial behavior, they might not really reciprocate those feelings as precisely as everyone else. They might even feel angry because it's very confusing. Like sometimes it's like the input and the output is very, very different. And I think the biggest thing is, and again, this is very grain of take a really very, very grain of salt. Psychopaths tend to hide it better than sociopaths. So sociopaths, and that might be one of the reasons why the Shane Dawson documentary called him. They called him a sociopath, right?
Yeah. They never really talked about psychopaths because
Right.
that's a completely
Yeah.
different and more terrifying can of beans. So
Yeah, like for example, my one of my friends in my freshman year of university told me about a story where he's one of his coworkers at a movie theater was well, no one liked him, but they kind of had to sort of be with him because they obviously he was a coworker. They had no choice. But he told them some really mucked up stories about how he pretty much emotionally manipulated a girl into going further down the line of her anorexic behavior, and she was his girlfriend at the time. And he was saying that, oh, I told her that she was fat and she needed to lose weight, and most people don't know this, anorexia is not a physical disorder, it is a mental disorder. The physical repercussions are of a mental disorder, and it's because that you get insecure about your own weight and you think that the quote unquote supermodel look is the way you get that is just not eating. And it is very unhealthy. It is very serious. And so
which
this
is which is it's weird that you bring that up because one of the other Shane Dawson videos was him talking about what's her name? The girl who she was like almost like a skeleton girl.
yeah,
What
yeah,
was her name? I forgot what her name was. Crap,
I
I
don't
hate.
know. I mean,
It was
There's many.
Eugenia Cooney. That was her name. She was like
Okay.
really skinny and she was going through a lot of she said it was an eating disorder, but
Right.
he talks about that too because Shane himself went through an eating disorder. So
Oh
yeah,
my.
so that also impacted. That's also a very good
Yeah.
episode
Yeah,
of
actually, speaking of anorexia and eating disorders, a lot of people at my middle school thought I had an eating disorder, because I was so super super skinny. Like the doctor quite literally said that you need to feed him fat just so he can remain stable. And I was also playing like 2 or 3 hours of soccer outside in the deadly sun every day. So he said limit his time in the heat because he could
yeah.
actually get a heat stroke at his age. And I was like, to put into perspective, I was 60 pounds in
You were what
eighth grade. In
the
eighth
fuck?
grade, yeah, at age 12, going on to 13, I was 60 pounds.
Were
Uh,
you I don't know if this is an oddly personal question, but were you
oh no,
diagnosed with a eating disorder
no, no, dude,
or
I was eating everything that I mean, I was eating, but it wasn't like less enough to like I didn't have an appetite. That the thing was not an insecurity issue. It was that
it was just
I did.
literally you didn't feel like eating? It
Yeah,
wasn't
well,
like a
yeah, I was actually very not insecure. I mean, I was, I was, bullied and everything for my weight and other things that I have, but it was quite opposite. I wasn't insecure about anything really, but the thing was, I was eating obviously more with my parents telling me, you should really eat. You are very, very unhealthy. And my parents, I think my parents and I were joking about it later on in like high school, where my parents said, yeah, we were kind of worried that adults would think we're like starving you.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, no, no, no.
It's a
Like they
very
gave
Indian
me
thing to do.
food. Yeah,
Yeah,
they gave me all the food. In fact, I
yeah.
think middle school was the best time of my life, ironically, because like I think my happiness ironically peaked in middle school because I had some of the greatest friends and also the greatest
Honestly,
time.
same. My happiness peaked in high school too,
Yeah, but
but
the thing
yeah.
was, my parents would buy me these 600-calorie muffins a day, and oh man, I downed those things, and I was like, "Are you telling me my parent?" Like, it would literally be we were walking down the street, and I'd say, "Can I have that ice cream?" And it'd be like, "Sure, take two." I'm like, "Okay, okay,
That's like a
I
life
will."
to that's a life to live as a
Dude, it
kid like
really
that.
is. I mean, I don't. Again, I don't really want to make light of the problems that people with anorexia have, but
Yeah.
quite literally. if you're that skinny and you don't have anorexia, it is actually a blessing from God.
Yeah.
Like I could eat
I've
anything I
always
wanted.
been jealous of people with high metabolisms. I
Yeah,
myself don't have a high metabolism, and
yeah.
it's the one
But
physical trait I really wish I had.
the other good thing is when I did eventually hit that like growth and I grew really fast, really quickly, right? Like I went from 60 to 70 pounds to 120 in the span of a year and a half.
Hmm.
And you know, like and it was crazy. And the thing is, I also grew a lot too. Like I grew very tall in a short amount of time. I'm like average height, but I mean, I still was growing very fast. And the thing is, back when I was in middle school, back in that day, I used to hang out with a lot of tall people, right? Like my friends, and they obviously tall people are a little bit faster. Obviously, they have longer legs, longer strides. So little me would have to like double the pace to catch up, right, and keep up with them. And when I grew that tall, I kept that pace. So now
Hmm.
I walk very fast for my height. I my friends always tell me like, dude, slow
Yeah,
down,
I
seriously.
it's just like a sprinter, a sprint walker.
Yeah,
But
it just looks really awkward when I walk, and that's just like my normal walking speed because that's like what I had to do for a very long time.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
See me
I
book
wish I
it.
had a high metabolism. That's all I'll say is
Yeah.
so one
I
thing I
mean,
want.
even now, I'm not gonna lie. I am relatively on the skinny side. I have a bit of fat. Like it's not really like I'm not fat, but I'm not like healthy either. You know.
Mm,
But the thing is, I do eat very little even now, and that's not really again. It's, I'm okay. I'm it's not an anorexia thing. It's more of just I don't really have the appetite
yeah,
to really indulge. And the thing is, when I do, people are like, "Damn, that you're eating a lot today," and in reality, it's just like a normal meal.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, people have different eating habits, so.
yeah, you know.
But yeah,
Anyways, so what else is what we gonna talk about today?
yeah. I mean, before we move on, I just wanted to say, yeah, go check out Shane's documentary,
Hmm.
especially you
I
strive,
will,
please.
I will,
Yes,
I will.
I'll
That
also
sounds
send you
interesting.
the I'll send you the episode that you want to watch too,
Yeah,
and go
I
ahead
probably
and
will just watch all of it in my free time. I mean,
yeah,
again, this stuff kind of really fascinates me. It's a little scary how much it does. Honestly,
yeah.
I don't know why I'm a psychology
We
major or
are
something.
not psychopaths, I think. So yeah.
I think. See,
Um.
you know, you're not a psychopath because you said I think.
I mean, yeah. We
Because
a
because
psychopath is like, I'm not a psychopath. Yeah. So
maybe, but I think that one of the things, one of the last traits I'm going to tell you is I don't think psychopaths actually believe there's anything wrong with them, even though
yeah.
society tells them so.
Yeah.
So
It's
they're
like
relatively narcissist in that manner and arrogant, maybe.
yeah.
Anyways,
American Psycho, more like American Socio. Am I right? Am
yeah,
I right?
good joke. I
That was
really, damn. Are you going to be here all
good
week?
joke.
I hope not.
100 points. Yes.
Uh,
10,000 points for Gryffindor for that
damn.
dumbass
Okay, wait.
joke.
Hey,
But yeah.
before we move on, since you mentioned Gryffindor, I really want to point out the fact, really over, like completely off brand, just one topic. Did you realize that at the end of the first movie, Dumbledore quite literally, just with no shame, just said, "Oh, hey, they're tied. Gryffindor and Slytherin are tied. I'm just gonna give 5 points or 10 points to
Yeah,
Neville
yeah, yeah. It's pure
for being."
bias. It's
It's
literal
so
pure
dumb.
bias. It's like
It's like oh my god. I
regardless of whatever happened, it was like even like if it was the Neville thing that got to me. I was like everything else made sense because it was like the adventure of the story,
yeah
but the story of the adventure. But like the Neville thing was just like, come on, that's
yeah.
very. Second place was fine. I mean, they didn't get the cup, but they got
Actually,
second place.
it would have been I think narratively, maybe not for kids like at
Yeah,
that
but
age cuz
narratively as a story, it makes
it would have been pretty cool if they got
yeah,
second place
yeah.
and basically Dumbledore kind of that would have actually been a really good
Because like
Dumbledore thing to do.
maybe like Dumbledore acknowledges them. This even the
But
It shows that the school is a school. It's not
yeah.
Gryffindor and the bitches. It's an actual school.
Well, actually, like another thing is, remember Slytherins are not supposed to be bad. They're really
Yeah,
supposed to be very good at what they do. It's just
they're
they got
supposed to
there.
be like
The clever,
you
the
read the
cunning.
39 the 39 clues, right? You
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
what are they called? The red people? I call them the red
The
people.
red people, the Madurai or something. Oh wait, no, I'm
Not the
thinking
madrigals.
Warframe. I'm thinking Warframe. I just said a school from Warframe.
What's the red people called?
I don't. I'm gonna Google it, but
Yeah.
I
But
know what you're talking about.
yeah, yeah.
39 Clues was pretty cool.
Lucius?
Was it
Lucius?
really? I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
What were the families? What were the families? Was it Janice? No. Was it Janice?
I know
Katarina,
there's
Janice,
something.
Thomas, Cabra, No, that's the family.
Cabra,
No, no, no,
Cabra,
no, no. That's not the name of the thing.
the
That's
Cabra's twins.
the Lucians, the Lucian branch. That's what it was called. Katerina, Janice, Lucian, and Thomas or
Hmm.
Tomas. And then
Tomas.
the Madrigal branch. But then they were like, you are
Madrigal.
a Madrigal. You're a Madrigal. Everyone's a Madrigal.
Well,
That's
okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. I know that's a really good series, or at least I assume it is with how
it's
many
a
people
yeah,
know
yeah,
it. But I've only read the first two. Do you know why?
why?
Quite literally, it was the writing style. The first book was written by Rick Riordan, by the way.
Yeah, and
So,
then the second, you can tell the differences.
oh, you can tell.
Growing
Like,
up,
dude,
like when I
I
was
was in
young,
eighth grade. I was in eighth grade.
yeah, when I read it when I was like in fourth grade or like
Oh,
third or
okay,
fourth
okay.
grade, so I couldn't really tell. But then revisiting those books back in middle school, I was like, there's definitely something off about some of these books.
Like, I know shade on the author that wrote the second book. I'm pretty sure the writing
Yeah,
style
there's no
still.
shade on any of the authors. It's just the fact that the style was so different every single one. It was like
Yeah, it was a little jarring.
growing up, you can't really keep up with the series, which is what they wanted to happen, but it didn't happen.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, Rick Riordan has a very kid-friendly writing style.
Yes.
You,
Yes.
I
As an
think. I
adult
mean,
reading them, you feel weird, but like as a kid reading them, you feel amazing.
he is quite honestly, in my opinion, uh, way better writer for kids than J.K. Rowling. Did you
Wow.
know, by the way,
Hot take.
not a lot of people know this, but J.K. Rowling actually had the F word multiple time in the last book, not the F word like spelt out,
Yeah.
but like I guess it might be a British thing. I don't know because obviously I don't know what
Probably.
it called.
Yeah, even like
It was
you look at
effing,
some
effing.
if you look at some Tom Holland interviews, he always like says random curse words just at some time just because the culture was so different, you
Well,
know.
no, not like that. Like when we say the F word, we just say it. But
Oh yeah, yeah, but like a
I mean,
different.
they call it effing. Like they'll like she
Oh
spells
okay.
out
Oh
EFFING.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting.
And I'm just saying, I know that's not technically the F word, right? But I'm just saying, like, I I think that's a good thing. And hear me out, hear me out. I know it's a kid's book, and you're having like that stuff. I'm sure some parents might be against that. They probably just didn't even know because oh, Harry Potter about wizards is fine.
Yeah.
But uh, the thing about J.K. Rowling is that hater or lover now. With the whole controversy around what she's doing, but I don't really care. She quite literally was one of the greatest writers because
Yeah.
here's the thing, she wrote a book series about a kid that was the age of the readers that she was writing for, and they grew up with them. Like
Yeah.
Harry Potter
Which is
grew
hard
up
to
with
do.
you.
Which is harder
It
than people
is.
people
Yeah,
think.
like Rick Riordan doesn't do
See,
that
people think
technically.
that's the thing is people think it's easy to do
Oh
that because
yeah.
it's like, oh, they read the books as a kid, so they're definitely going to read it again. No,
No,
sometimes
no,
it's
yeah.
like when you
Here-
get that, and sometimes if you do it wrong, people get taken aback and they decide not to read them ever again because it's
yeah,
like you're
yeah.
ruining my childhood.
Right.
So it's
See,
very
Rick
hard on
Riordan. Rick Riordan
breaking
has the
anything.
appeal of being a better kids writer because remember Percy Jackson, for the original series, the 5 books were written from Percy Jackson's perspective. So a lot of the way he wrote was from a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old perspective as the books went on. But J.K. Rowling writes as an adult would, but keeps the writing relatively, like not too complex, like,
Yeah.
J.R.R. Tolkien or anything, nowhere near that level, but she keeps it sophisticated enough to where you can still read it today and still enjoy it a lot, right? But the thing is, I want to point out that if you look at each of the books, right? Harry Potter when he's 11-year-old going through all the crazy stuff he does, and yet the book is very short. The first book is insanely short, right? Second book, I think it's like around the same size, a little longer. Third book of a little bit way longer than the first ones, right? First two, right? Because a lot of the third book has a lot of the Hermione Ron bickering subplot, right? Like a lot
Mhm.
of their dynamic is quite honestly just that, right? Every scene they're in together, even it's also beautifully portrayed in the movies. Every scene they're in together, they're bickering, they're complaining, they're arguing, blah blah blah. Hermione gets alienated. Ron starts making fun of her, and is you get all that character development stuff, great stuff. But it's very similar to real life when 13 is you're a teenager, you kind of have that 13 age looming around you, getting into a lot of teenager drama in maybe even high school or well actually yeah, high
Yeah.
school, middle school, whatever. Point is, and then fourth, fifth, sixth get a lot darker. Like if you realize fourth is quite literally just a high school drama mixed in with some crazy terrorist wizard organization, mixed in with this over the top tri-wizard tournament where kids can die. I mean, it's there. And I think you grow up with Harry Potter
Yeah.
as
So
Harry Potter world.
yeah, but what were I even forgot what the original point was. But yeah, no, books are great.
Hmm.
Watch Shane Dawson. And yeah. Oh yeah. Scribe. Remember I told you I was telling you earlier that I wanted to see a reaction to something, and I don't know if you've looked at this yet, but one of the biggest one of the biggest things last year was Infinity War, the huge crossover, the huge thing, everyone coming together, and then Endgame was the thesis of all of the Marvel movies coming together.
Yeah.
Not even the Avengers coming together. It's more about all the Marvel movies
It
just
was it
coming
was a
together.
love note to every Marvel,
Yeah,
basically.
and sort of the same way in that direction is going this year. As you know, we are having the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover on the DC CW TV
Oh right,
shows.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there's been a lot of hype about that recently. They said Brandon Routh is Superman. Then they said they're bringing back Tom Welling. They're also bringing back like from the Smallville series. Then they're bringing back Lois Lane from the Smallville series. Then they're
Hmm.
bringing back Burt Ward, the original Robin from the 1960s
Wow.
Batman cartoon, and they're also bringing Kevin Conroy to play a live action Bruce Wayne.
Oh yeah,
They're
yeah,
bringing
yeah.
John Wesley Shipp back to play
Wait,
Jay Garrick.
isn't I thought Batman's not like explicitly in the CW Arrowverse?
He is not supposed to be, but I think they're making an exception or something. But he is playing Bruce Wayne. Kevin Conroy is playing Bruce Wayne. That's what
Huh.
they said. So,
That's
but
pretty
yeah,
weird
we
actually and
haven't
cool.
yeah we haven't seen much about this other than that almost a lot of the big plot points of the first like half of the seasons for a lot of these shows will revolve around Crisis before they get to the actual
Hmm.
crossover in December and January. And
Right.
there's been like a ton of hype. Like recently the big news came out about the Spider-Man stuff that we'll talk about, but just like at the same time as that came out, another thing came out for this Crisis thing, and it was
Right.
almost as equally as trending as the Spider-Man stuff, which is like sort of a shock for primetime television, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I don't know if you've looked at this image yet, but this thing came out. If you go to do you see it?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
this image, yeah.
yeah. Have you seen this at all?
No.
Yeah, that's Brandon Routh, Superman from Superman Returns. He's
It's a
back.
very classic
There
look.
is I know that a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is weird and this is weird." I'm in love with this picture. It's not a gay thing, no homo. It's just damn. Like I remember I had so much nostalgia for the first the Superman Returns because I was
Right.
young when that came out, and alongside like Batman Begins and like the Raimi Spider-Man movie, not even the the Raimi Spider-Man movies. Along with that, I watched Superman Returns, and this was huge.
Right.
This movie was that people forget about that movie a lot, and was it was a movie. I mean, it's Kevin Spacey and what's his name? Bryan Singer directed it. So it's sort of like it didn't age. Those people didn't age well with time, but You
Yeah.
know, the actual movie itself, it was fine. It was a fine movie, but Brandon Routh, in my opinion, played a great Clark Kent, a great Superman. Maybe not as well of a Superman as a Clark Kent, but he was a great Clark Kent,
Yeah.
and I feel like with this, it's just huge that they're. I mean, he's on the shows, but it's huge that he gets to play Superman and he gets to play Kingdom Come Superman, and the fact that like I was worried because it was like, you know, maybe they're getting all of these people in just for like a little one note thing. And we don't know. Maybe it is because they're getting all of these people for like a one note little cameo here and there. But the fact that the first thing they've shown us from Crisis on Infinite Earths has been
Yeah.
this shot of Brandon Routh as Superman really elevates my confidence in what they're going to do with this year's crossover.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what are
I
your
mean,
thoughts on this picture of glory?
like specifically this picture or just the Arrowverse in
I
general?
mean, this picture, the Arrowverse too. Starting off with this
Well,
picture, just look at this
this
man.
picture, I mean, I love it. I I mean, I'm not a huge Superman fan. I like Superman. I think it's he's a cool he's a role model. He's a ideal character. He's a archetype. And it's hard to write about it, but I think in terms of what he looks, it's always been iconic, right? Throughout
Mhm.
history. You always associate red, blue, S cape with Superman. It's the one constant and never changes. And this picture just encapsulates all of that in a very, very almost homage to like the older comics.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, the Kingdom Come Superman is like it's cool, but like the thing was, this is a classical looking costume. Like, but it's weird because when I look at this costume, I think of like Christopher Reeve Superman, which for the record, I think canonically, Brandon Routh Superman is the same as Christopher Reeve Superman. I think
Okay.
canonically, which is really cool. But
Hmm.
like as a thing, it was like it reminds you of that, but in the same, but like on the same wavelength, it sort of looks like the Shazam suit in a way. Like it has that texture to it as well,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I like that combination. I really do. I think,
Well, I think
yeah.
the thing is, back when I was maybe like 2 years ago, I saw this image on it was a comic book image, maybe a panel. Actually, I don't think it was a panel. It was a cover for a comic book. It was kind of like the entire Justice League roster with
Mhm.
obviously Superman in the front, and it was sort of like very, very. It was a very unique art style. Maybe I'll find it and maybe we could put it on the video.
Yeah,
But basically, it was sort of Superman aged up a little, and he
Mhm.
had like white, like very Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, white lines on his hair next to his ear, like right
Yeah,
above his
yeah.
sideburns.
Because it's
Very,
an older, yeah.
yeah, and you can kind of see that in this.
Yeah, you
Maybe
can.
it's
This is very comic accurate. This is
yeah.
extremely comic accurate
And
too.
I know that's like older Superman, right? Like I personally, I don't know why. I really like how Superman looks in the Dark Knight Returns movie, and like just
Mm.
the style. Maybe it's just the style. But I always like that kind of Superman. Ironically, I like Superman when he's a villain more than when he's a hero.
Yeah,
Maybe
Injustice
that's a
Superman, yeah.
yeah,
But
maybe that's a
but
topic for another video. But yeah,
yeah,
I think I like this picture.
yeah.
But I
As
think
far as Crisis is concerned, yeah. I
do,
mean,
do you want to talk about the Arrowverse a little? Like share our opinions
I
on
don't
it?
I don't know if I want to go full on Arrowverse. I think that's something I want to discuss in maybe even like a video essay or something.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Um, I think I do want to make a video essay close to like November, coming into like late October, maybe like around Thanksgiving break, just sort of like an ode to the Arrowverse.
Yeah, yeah, because
Talking about a lot.
I think in general, if you
I
really
think
think about it,
amongst
it's a
like, yeah, amongst Scribe, I think you can agree with me. Amongst like all the people that we know, I think I'm probably the biggest watcher of the
oh yeah,
Arrowverse
yeah,
shows.
yeah, for
I,
sure.
I've kept up with these shows through the ups and downs. I didn't watch them all from the beginning, but like
Mostly
I
downs.
remember, yeah, yeah, I'm mostly downs. I remember the first like thing of these shows I watched was the scene at the end of or in at the beginning of the final episode of season 1 of The Flash, where he's talking with Harrison Wells in the glass cage
Hmm.
about, spoiler, the fact that he's the Reverse Flash and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And that was like a moment that I was like, wait, this is like I was young. I was like in 8th grade, and I thought like, holy crap, this is cool. This is like, is this from a movie
Yeah,
or something? And then I went and I
yeah,
saw the shows were on Netflix and stuff, and I was like, oh crap, I'm gonna watch some of these things. And
yeah.
I remember, I
My
think I
brother,
have, yeah,
my brother and his two or three of his close friends are very into the Arrowverse, like very into it.
yeah,
Like I honestly, Hithy, ironically, I would say based on I obviously I've hung out with you a lot, and obviously my brother,
yeah,
he's 12 by the way. I
yeah.
think he's even more of a bigger fan than you are.
Thank
Just
you for that comment. Really makes me feel very good about myself.
oh yes, no, but
No,
actually
no,
though,
yeah,
no,
no, but
in
like
all actuality, it's it's fascinating. The Arrowverse really is. I mean, it's
the fact that the show has worked, but it still hasn't picked up as much steam as a lot of other
yeah,
things,
yeah.
strange to
I
me.
think I think it's fair to say that even though I stopped after season 2 of Flash, and quite literally that is my only in-depth, you know, immersion in
Just
the
those two
Arrowverse.
seasons of Flash, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong. I know a little bit what happens later. I'm not like completely devoid of information.
yeah,
I'm mostly from you, really, and my
yeah.
brother. Like my brother showed me that one
Because
scene where DeVoe. It's a very beautiful fight scene. Actually, he showed me it. He was very passionate about it. He showed me a fight scene with DeVoe. He was walking down the hallway fighting those guards.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Yeah,
hallway
yeah,
fight scene with DeVoe,
yeah.
yeah, it's sort of like an ode to like the Arrow Daredevil sort of thing too, as well in a way.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, obviously, so the thing about Arrow is right, or not just specifically Arrow, but the Arrowverse is gonna maybe this might piss you off, but I mean it in the best way. They're not really great shows. They're not good
Yeah, yeah,
shows.
I agree. So like
At best they're interesting
they're average
sci-fi
shows, yeah.
dramas. Yeah,
Yes, they're not really peak television, I would
yeah,
say. But
but
here's
I
the
think it's
thing
okay. But I
that I
no,
sort
I
of
think
want
it's
to,
okay. I think it's okay
yeah,
because I think people that watch that show aren't looking for like wonderful storytelling. I mean, they are, but like they're not looking for something like along the lines of Game of Thrones or Daredevil or
yeah,
something
that's
like
the
that.
thing. Yeah, that's the thing with these shows that I do want to comment on, especially probably in the video that I'm going to make, is that these shows are not really great. Like Arrow season 4 sucked. I will
Yeah,
say that. It
but
sucked. I didn't like it. I thought I liked it, and then after I watched it, I was like, this is not good. But
but I
like,
think you can commend the fans for sticking through all
yeah,
that, right? Like, I mean,
people who
you
have,
can,
yeah,
yeah, you
and
can
I
really
mean,
commend the fans for that.
and when these shows reward the fans, they really do reward the fans, and
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
that's what we're gonna really see with this Crisis on Infinite Search
I
crossover.
watched the episode. No, I don't remember if I watched this episode as in like I actually don't even remember when it takes place. It's the alien arc. Like
Mm.
it's like one of the first big like almost like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Avengers level
Invasion or
crossover.
something like. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it
I
was
mean,
the first big one. I think
yeah, and dude, like I think this might have actually been in the middle of season 2 or maybe even 3. I did watch like the first
it
bit of
was
season
middle of
3.
season 3 of Flash. Yeah.
Yeah, I might have actually that might have been where I stopped watching. Ironically, that's like the biggest thing, and I think I might have stopped watching. I don't know, but
Yeah. The thing with these shows is it's like, and I think I should probably save a lot of this for the video, but basically these shows, I think this crossover is going to be great, and I would suggest even if you haven't really watched these shows, I would tune into the crossover because
right.
this crossover seems to be like that Avengers level threat, the
Yeah,
big event. So
I love that meme template. But
yeah, but
but
yeah.
yeah, but my final thoughts
Anyway,
on the Airverse is I think I like the idea and the idea of the Airverse. I respect the idea. I like the idea of liking the Airverse, but I don't necessarily like it myself as much as to
yeah,
follow it so intimately as a lot of the other fans do. I personally respect it for what it is, but not necessarily you know go too in depth with it.
yeah. So yeah. Anyway, this is a smaller topic that I did want to bring up. But this is like I think this is just the thing I want to talk about just briefly for like 2 or 3 minutes. But
Right.
recently a new movie came out that a lot of people sort of glossed over, the Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans movie. This movie is a sequel
Wait,
to
what?
Teen. Yeah.
Oh wait,
Um.
that's an actual. Oh wow, you talked to me about talking about this during the thing. I thought it was
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
random thing. I didn't realize it
Yeah.
was based
Yeah,
off of
yeah.
it.
I mean, there is also stuff to talk about the cartoon, but I also I wanted to talk about this in light of the fact that this movie came out, because this movie hasn't really gotten that much attention because Teen Titans Go to the Movies was like a theatrical release, and this movie was a direct to video. Um, but it was cool. Like I don't want to spoil too many. I mean, there isn't really much to spoil. It's the Teen Titans. They cross paths with an alternate version of themselves, which is the Teen Titans from like the original show, right?
Yeah.
And the humor is relatively on point. I did enjoy Teen Titans Go to the Movies more than I enjoy this movie. But still, this movie was absolutely amazing, and I think the way that it was self-referential, it wasn't being as self-referential to DC in general, but it was talking about the Titans a lot, and the comedy was like pretty good. And this movie and Teen Titans Go as a cartoon has been shit upon immensely. It's considered one of the worst things of all time, and they even make jokes about that like in the cartoon
Well,
regularly
I
and
think
stuff.
I think the cartoon. I mean, see, you don't know my honest opinion. When the cartoon was coming around back when I
Back
remember
when it
talking about,
first started, yeah, yeah.
yeah, back when it first started. I remember all the hate that back in that day. I remember all the people saying, "Wow, this is nothing like we wanted. We wanted Teen Titans.
Yeah,
We
we
wanted
wanted
the
we wanted Spectacular Spider-Man, but the Teen Titans, and
yeah." And
they got
I
this,
get
and that
don't get me wrong. I get what they're coming from, but as in that time, as a I believe maybe a this is might not have been when it came out, but I believe when this conversation arose in my art class of all things, in third year of high school, I I was like, why are people hating this? Like, don't get me wrong, I understand it. I don't like it.
it's not.
It's not really my
Again, it's
thing.
also not my thing. Like
Right.
I've tried
But
to watch this show, and
but I feel like they were critiquing it as if the developers of the show were saying that it was going to be like the original, but nowhere did I ever see as this Teen Titans Go as a even a like why are you comparing it to the original? Like it's not supposed to be like it's like comparing Star Wars to the kids Darth Vader My Father Star Wars kids book, right?
yeah, or like comparing the original trilogy of Star Wars to something like the one
Right.
Star Wars Resistance cartoon that's on like Disney XD or something right now. Like,
Yeah.
and that even is even that sort of like a stretch too. But like
Well, like I
this
mean,
is
I don't know.
like
I just didn't really understand why people were actually considering Teen Titans Go as an actual like
yeah,
anything
they
more
want
than what it
they
was.
I don't actually know the schematics of how Teen Titans got canceled and moved to Teen Titans Go, but
Yeah, I
like when
just
you go to
remember.
you yeah, when you go to YouTube and you like these are like the compilations on YouTube like for this cartoon are like one of the
Right.
most popular things like on YouTube. And it's like I've watched a couple of them. They're not horrible. It's a good thing to it's a good cartoon if you want to if you this was primarily meant for kids, right? If you are a fan of DC things and you have
Yeah.
kids and you want them to be fans of DC things, this is the thing that you Chromecast on your TV and you let them watch while you're busy cooking or if you're busy doing something. That's the type of cartoon this is, right? But the
Yeah.
thing is like those cartoons are sort of like that, right? Where
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like there is still something sometimes for maybe this film didn't really hit a lot of that. It was primarily for kids, but
Yeah.
like especially Teen Titans Go to the Movies was like a movie that you could take your kid to go watch, and then you as a comic book fan, or like as a a cultural zeitgeist fan of these like DC content could very much enjoy. It was self-referential. It talked about it was like the scene where they kill Aquaman in the past and they send Wayne's parents back into the alley to get killed after they realize they've made a mistake and stuff like that. That stuff is dark, but it's dark and also funny. And it's like the kids don't
Oh.
the kids don't get it, but the adults are like, "Oh shit, this isn't a kids movie. This is pretty funny." There's a scene where they're about to send Superman. Basically the motive is like, they don't want to um have the heroes like turn because they want to be the only heroes to get their own movie, right? So what they do is they go back into the past and stop all the other heroes from becoming heroes. So they go to
Mhm.
Krypton, and they're about to send Kal-El on the jet, and they're like, no, wait, let's do this weird dance thing, and I think the planet actually like blows up for
Right.
some, like they're like, oh, let's keep them on the planet, and they like party around before the planet blows up. But the other thing was like, they're like, Aquaman shouldn't exist, so let's throw one of those 8-pack plastic wrap things in the ocean and kill him.
Right.
Yeah, it's humor that's funny for kids because it's cartoony, but it's hilarious for adults because it's like, holy shit, they just killed Aquaman. So I think people give this show so much shit, and it doesn't deserve this shit. And I think now we're in a renaissance to say that this show has uh this show is good. It's not bad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
go ahead and go to YouTube and watch a couple clips. That's what
Yeah.
I would highly suggest.
Yeah.
But yeah,
All right. Sweet. So I think we're ready for our
I
main
think
event.
we've been doing this for what, like an hour so far. So
Yeah. I mean,
we
it's
might,
fine. It's a podcast, dude. I think
yeah,
people
yeah.
are okay. People. I
I
think
think,
generally people watch
yeah,
podcasts just to have
maybe,
a little
yeah, maybe what I'll do is I might time code some of this too, so just so people can jump
jump
back and
around.
forth. Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
the main story of today, the one that all people are picking up, the one that's sort of controversial, the one story that broke the internet and then rebroke the internet and was stupid and weird and uh, literally my notes for this story. Do you know what my notes are?
What?
Just twitter.com. Literally, if I just go to Twitter, I have everything. Those are my notes for this. I try to be organized. We've talked about this. Like, this podcast is meant to be abstract. I like to be organized, but the only way I can have notes for this story is just going to Twitter. And I don't even have to like have specific tweets or like Twitter moments or something. I just have to normally just go to my Twitter,
Okay, this
and
is
then
gonna sound really
everything is
stupid,
there.
but do you have to have a Twitter account to just surf Twitter? Because it's not
No, you
letting
don't.
me.
No, you don't. But it keeps everything recommended for you, like
Okay,
what
because I'm
you
like,
know.
I'm actually going on Twitter as we're
Yeah, go to
talking right
Twitter.
now.
So yeah,
I
of course, the story that
Okay,
we're
I found
talking
it. Never
about.
mind.
Yeah, no, oh yeah, if you go to Twitter and just search up the hashtag, you'll probably find a lot of
Wait, what
stuff.
do you mean
But
search up the hat? Oh,
the
do you
you know
just literally? Is it just a search bar?
yeah, it's if you go to Twitter, you go to search Twitter
Okay,
slash
I
search.
feel like I'm sounding like such a dumb person
Sound
right
like
now.
an old. You sound like an old person. Doesn't even use
Dude. You're
Twitter.
like this. You're like the third guy, quite literally, in these 2 weeks that has called me old. What the hell? I'm not old. Okay, seriously. What the heck? I'm
You're
not old.
between the ages of 16 and 46. So, yeah.
No,
No.
okay, yeah, we'll talk about that later. But right now, I
Yeah.
want to talk about Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah. I was gonna make a dramatic thing about how we're talking
oh,
about
I'm
Spider-Man.
sorry. Okay, I
You
feel like the
ruined
fact
it. You
I'm
ruined
sorry.
it.
Okay,
Ruin
look.
Johnson, more like Ryan Johnson. And am I right?
Oh man. Okay,
That's a
look.
joke stole from Dan Murrell over at Screen Junkies. He's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Okay,
Anyway,
look. Okay,
Spider-Man.
yeah,
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
That's the story, Spider-Man.
In my
This
defense,
drama
people
has
probably
been
knew this.
this entire thing has been going crazy. Maybe it's because, and again, Dan Murrell from Twitter and from Screen Junkies does talk about this a lot on his fandom entertainment little Screen Junkies universe news thing that they do. Um, just the fact that we as nerds are sort of in a bubble, right? Like, we don't really know what the average fan who goes and watches these movies is like. Maybe, like, I bet you, like, 1/3 of the people who watch these Avengers movies probably have no idea about like this whole Spider-Man MCU thing. They're probably just like, oh, he's not in
I
the
think it's more than
Avengers.
that, actually. I honestly, I feel like it's more than that.
Do you think it's like a half, maybe even?
Okay, well, I don't know. You see, you can't really say
But
these numbers without taking a.
there is a good amount of people who go to watch these films who
Yeah, see,
don't.
you can't really make a demographic unless you take a full-on random sample size with the
Yeah,
population
yeah. But
being,
like in
you
general,
know,
in general,
yeah,
from like what we've seen, it seems as though that in the first place, not a lot of people care. But as far because we can only assess, we're in a bubble, right? And we don't have any needles to pop this bubble.
Yeah.
We have to our environment is what we see in the environment that we're in. And in the environment that we're in, this Spider-Man MCU thing has been a big deal. It's been a huge deal. The day I was moving in, I opened up Twitter and I saw that this happened and I went, "Oh shit. What's going on? I don't understand."
Right.
And I think I was the one that broke the news to you, right?
No, actually, I knew about it before you told me. Actually, I was a little happy about that because usually you're the one with about the current events, and then I found out about it, and then you texted me. So I assume when you texted me, you found out about it at that time.
Yeah, yeah. Are you talking about him coming back or him leaving?
Him coming back.
No, no, but like, do you remember like when he was leaving? I think I told you that
Oh
he
yeah,
was.
yeah. Okay, okay. So what happened was, yeah, you did tell me about that. You told me to go on Twitter. You just said go on Twitter
Yeah, yeah, and
and
then
just
that was
see.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah,
So yeah, that was a special moment I think for us where it was like, damn, right? It was like
it was
I
It was a I will say this, like, I'm not really so I love the MCU. I wanna preface this by
again,
saying I
same. Yes,
really
yes.
love the I it is movie royalty in my eyes. It is frankly better than I'm gonna hate get a lot of hate for this. It is better
Frankly,
than Star
better
Wars
than
in almost
Star
every
Wars.
way.
I
Yeah,
don't ever
and I'm
really
a
make that
huge Star Wars
comparison, but like, yeah, I could see that point.
I
Yeah.
think I think it's one of those movies that will go down in history as the most ambitious and the most quality of cinematic entertainment. And I know a lot of people I know there's people out there that don't like Marvel. Don't get me wrong. I'm not that like stereotypical Marvel fanboy that's like, oh, you don't like Marvel, you don't like movies. I think it's not for everyone. Like everything, it's not for
Yeah.
everyone. And you're not obligated to love
There are
Marvel, but
people
I
who,
love Marvel.
yeah, yeah.
I really do. And
But I think,
I
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
when I heard about this Tom Holland leaving, right? I was not really like heartbroken. I was not, I just kind of felt empty, just
Hmm.
because like I was like taking it very rationally. I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? That means that canonically, well, that means financially speaking, Sony is now just gonna make their own Marvel things, right? Their own, sorry, not Marvel, Spider-Man things, right? They're gonna be making their own stuff, more content. So we're not gonna get any more Tom Holland. Actually, well, technically, they never said Tom Holland was gone. They just said Disney
Yeah, they
can't
just
make
said,
Tom
yeah,
Holland.
yeah.
But that canonically, that means that now Disney can't use Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man on screen, but they can still reference him. I've heard in the deal, as in you can't. They're not going to completely wipe him from the universe. They're just going to like not have him explicitly there, which of course ruins it because Spider-Man is quite literally the heart of Marvel, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe not the MCU. They call Tony Stark, RDJ, the heart of Marvel. But I'm saying is like in terms of like cred, like in terms of like popularity and just
Street cred.
iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Iron
When
Man,
you
you're
say when you
up the
say
street.
Marvel,
Get out of
you think
here.
yeah, you think of Marvel. You think of Marvel when you think of Spider-Man when you think of Marvel. I'm interchanging these two a lot. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
But you get my point. So when I heard that canonically speaking now that's what's going to happen where they're no longer going to have this brilliant actor playing this brilliant character that has been passed down quite literally over decades and decades of fantastic stories and maybe not so fantastic all some of them but a lot of them have been fantastic and iconic uh it made me feel like well that's really sad it is and
Yeah, and
but
I will
then I
say
saw on the
my
bright side.
and I mean my sentiments for that too were that like so like I think even my like normal non-nerd friends were like, "Are you going through the 5 stages of grief?" Right? And
Oh
I was
yeah,
like,
I wouldn't think it's that excessive.
I wasn't like that, but like the thing for me was one of the I remember I was with the flu, not the with the flu. I was just having a bad fever, and I don't know what grade I was in, but whenever the Civil War trailer, the second Civil War trailer came out, I was on my bed and I watched the trailer and Spider-Man came into frame with a shield and said, "Hey everyone." And the next day I didn't have a fever. And I mean, of
Spider-Man
course
cured my depression.
yeah, I'm not superstitious or I don't think Spider-Man cured my fever or something like that, but
Yeah.
that was one of the first moments. I wasn't like an MCU fan. I was too young to call myself a fan of anything really. I wasn't dedicated to anything. I was just watching these movies as they came along. But like the that when that happened, and that the positivity, the joy that came over me then was something that I don't think I could replicate ever, like, like in my
Yeah.
life. It was just it was an amazing
I
moment.
I
And
remember
I
my
what
reaction. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry,
when
go on.
I
Go on.
no, I was just gonna say when the news came out, when that happened, I was like, I sat on my bed and I was like, it was a moment for me. It wasn't even about Spider. Maybe it shows I'm too much of a fucking. I watch these movies or something like that too much or something. But when that happened, I had a self reflection of a kind on just like the years that have passed since that moment. And maybe this is getting hashtag emotional tag, but like I thought of like the things that I've experienced, throughout the span of like from there to where I am now. And I mean, it's merely only like what 4 years. It's not really that long of a time, but for me that seemed like such a long time. And it had some of the brightest moments of my life and some of the worst moments of my life were like
Yeah.
in that period of time. And I thought about how this sort of stuck with me and grew
Yeah.
more like as time progressed. And I felt I was sad in that way.
Yeah. And
But
I think it's
but
it's fair to say that like
yeah,
my reaction was is it was similar and not similar at the same time. Like I was also at that age at the time. I was sort of my state for Marvel was like it was kind of like, yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. They're making the movies. They're fun. I watch them. I like these characters. And then boom, you see that same scene, on a roost, and then Spider-Man
yeah,
comes. Hey everyone. And I quite literally I shrieked at the table. I was like, "Oh, whoa, no way!" And
yeah,
my parents were on the couch, right, around the couches, just kind of like doing their own thing, watching TV and stuff. And they jerked their head back as if like it wasn't exactly like that. It was more high pitched.
saw a dead
I'll tell you
body
that.
or
Yeah,
something.
I
Yeah,
think they literally thought I got hurt. That's kind of how high pitched it was.
yeah.
Uh, and
I mean, yeah, like one of like I never really searched too. I wasn't like really a big the internet user, right? Like I was a
yeah.
kid and I didn't really have that much of stuff on the internet. But one of the long like at that time I spent really no more than like 1 hour on the internet at a time. And like I remember before that trailer came out, like a day, I spent like 2 or 3 hours just searching all over the internet and going through like all sorts of I thought if I scroll enough through Google Images, I could
Mhm.
find like a sneak peek of the Spider-Man suit,
Yeah.
right? And there was a fake version of the Spider-Man suit online too, and that was a big deal. And I was like, "Oh, is that that looks like it?" And it was like, "No, that was fake." And I was like, "Ah, shit, it was
Yeah.
fake." And I kept going it went back and forth. And those regardless of however I feel about MCU Spider-Man objectively as a story, um the, it had an influence on me. It had a huge influence on me,
Right.
and so many other people. The 2.8 billion dollars worth of people. So,
Yeah.
I think
But I do.
whatever we're about to say about Disney and Marvel or Sony, regardless of whatever we're about to say,
We're
I
just glad
think
he's back.
we whether not even talking about whether he's back. We just want to. I just want to say that like the regardless of the storytelling things and the nitty gritties and the he's not really like Spider-Man, the Iron Man Junior shit, and then like Jeremy Conrad on Twitter going on Twitter and saying you can only now watch Far From Home because of the deal and stuff. Regardless of whatever I
Yeah.
want to talk about that, I want to say that these movies have defined me. Like they have, whether that be a
Yeah.
good thing or not. These movies have defined me,
Yeah.
and
I wanna segue into a subtopic related to Spider-Man and Marvel that I kind of wanna state in the next like 5 minutes or
yeah,
so, and I wanna get
yeah,
your opinion on it. I
not
think
I do want to get back to talking about
Yeah,
what
yeah.
actually
No, it
happened.
is related to Spider-Man. It's actually related to, so when you told me about this, or well, in not telling me, but you told me to go on Twitter, and I found out. I kind of was scrolling through the comment section, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, it's the comment section on Twitter. Everyone was
There's
losing their
It's
minds.
almost more cancerous than like the comment section on a YouTube video.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know about that, but basically, it was crazy. A lot of anger, a lot of hate. People pointing names, people demonizing Disney, Sony, both of them, neither of them. Some guy was talking about pizza. I don't know. It was weird. The point is,
Yeah.
a few comments were something along the lines of this. Wow, you guys are really invested, and this is not quoting, by the way. This is essentially the
Yeah,
general.
it's like
You guys
I
are
don't.
really invested. Man, you Marvel fanboys and fangirls are so sad. Do you have nothing better to do in your lives?
Yeah,
It's like,
you're
wow.
wasting your time, and it's like,
It's like, okay, I just want to address the fact, right? Like, I
yeah.
just want to talk about this. No particular comment, just the
In
general.
general, there's always
Yeah.
there's the
See,
guy who reacted to the guy who was really happy over the Last Jedi trailer or something like that, and he was like, you bitch. It's like I'm a real man who gets real pussy, and I don't wear cargo shorts to a date. I actually impress people with my
wait, is that a
cars. And
thing?
yeah, there was a guy who did that, and even
No,
Drew
no,
even
no. The cargo shorts to a date, is that like an actual thing that's
I
bad?
don't know. He was like he was like I don't wear cargo shorts all day and watch Star Wars.
I'm just imagining this really macho guy wearing like a
Yeah.
leather jacket, has a scar down his cheek, saying, "I'm a real man. I don't
I
wear
don't wear
cargo
cargo
shorts."
shorts. Oh,
And
cargo
I can
shorts.
just imagine me in the background wearing cargo shorts,
Yeah. And
and
they did
just
a big
being,
deal about like how like everyone who goes to see The Last Jedi should wear Star Wars or cargo shorts or something like that.
I don't know.
But like
But my point is, my whole thing that I wanted to say is that, is it really bad to love something and be invested in it? The people that say this, right, and they can say this, they're allowed. It's freedom of speech, whatever.
yeah,
But
it's
you gotta
fine.
ask yourself, like, is I'm gonna take this as they're saying this seriously and not as a joke. I'm sure there's people that are joking, but I'm sure there's also people that are not joking. This is more
Yeah.
targeted towards them, as I want to know, like, genuinely. I'm not trying to insult you. I'm just trying to know, like, is it really bad in your mind to be invested in a franchise that is, not only in my opinion very good, but also, like, I mean, it's quite literally what the mythology of today. It is. These stories have been changed, and instead of oral tradition, it's been comic tradition. There's so many different versions of each of these characters, and there's so many characters. It is quite
Yeah,
literally the mythology of today.
I think
And is
addressing
it?
that point. Yeah, I if it's such a it's this is weird because like I understand where they're coming from, right? When they're like, this is bad. It's like my parents do to a degree are like,
Well, yeah,
why the
yeah,
fuck are you watching Marvel movies all the time? It's like I understand that sentiment, right? Because it's
yeah.
like when you have it's about priorities, right? And that's a
See,
personal thing that ties to people is like if you have different priorities, like if you're trying to get through your college degree,
yeah,
right? And all you've been doing is watching Marvel movies, that's a problem because you have a different priority. It's not a bad thing to watch these movies. It's not a bad thing to tweet about these movies, but as long as it doesn't get in the way of something or it
right,
doesn't if you're going out to Twitter and you're attacking people to say you like this thing, well, no, this
yeah,
thing is actually better. Or like you like for a random example, you like BVS. Well, actually, that movie is shit. And if you like
yeah.
that movie, you are
And
shit. That's a bad thing to
and,
do.
and okay, like, another thing, by the way, this is gonna go more general, and I think you might agree with this, actually. Like, the whole thing behind, oh, you watch Marvel movies, you're a normie. It's like, okay, so I know, like, the trend nowadays.
Again, I defend that by just saying to quote the honest trailer for Avengers Endgame, I love you 2.8 billion.
Yeah, no,
2.8 billion.
Okay, but like my whole
It's like,
argument. So if you notice, actually, this is quite a huge cultural trend that I've been noticing in people. Maybe it's not because remember I do have a very limited. I don't use the internet as much as you, Mithy. So
yeah, I use it a lot
maybe
more.
my that bubble you were talking about is happening to me. But you can attest to this if you think it's true. But notice how all around the internet and all around quite literally every social circle, every group in school or college or any club, there's this general trend that if you like something that is niche, you are kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like that hipster kind of thing. And
It's the one little the TikTok where it's like, I like Billie Eilish songs and I wear high heels and I wear a t-shirt over my t-shirt and I wear cool glasses. I'm
okay,
misquoting
okay, but the
TikTok,
t-shirt over
but
the
like,
t-shirt though, I will say, it is actually really cool if you wear that. It does feel a lot more snug.
yeah, I
I will
guess.
say that
This
that
is
person
a
is not
complete
wrong.
off assignment, but yeah.
I,
Yeah.
anyways, who's Billie Eilish?
Um
I've been hearing
the
that name a lot. Is she like a
she
singer?
yeah, he or she, I'm not 100% sure.
Wait, Billy is a guy name, right? I know Billy
Yeah,
can be a
but
girl name, but
yeah, but
one
she,
second.
I don't know. I think it's a
Uh,
he. I think it's a he. It's a he. He
no, it's a she.
it's a she, but
Oh,
she
she's only
refers to
17.
herself
Oh,
as
oh.
a okay. Yeah, that's why I don't
Wait,
want to be offensive or anything. I honestly didn't know,
wait.
but
She identifies as a he or okay? It says
I
who
think
is
it's a
Billy?
he. I think they identify as a he because I remember like
I'm
Rainbow
just gonna
was
use
also
they because I hear that's
yeah,
like a
yeah,
huge
yeah,
thing
yeah.
nowadays.
But like they were talking about like uh, they're like a popular music. I
They're
think
only 17. Okay, I guess I was just imagining like a
they're
30-year-old
always on like
singer.
top 100. They're always on top 100.
No,
I will say that.
I don't know. When people were talking about Billie Eilish, or like I heard the name before, I guess imagining like a 31-year-old like.
Yeah, yeah. The name doesn't match up with the face stereotypically, but yeah, I've listened to
Yeah,
their
I don't know.
music. It's cool. But anyway, the I guess should we go back on topic maybe a little?
Well,
Um,
I think we got off topic
yeah.
off topic,
But
but
I guess
I just wanna talk about the fact that this whole hipster vibe thing, right? Of basically saying, oh, you know, I think it's called gatekeeping. Maybe I'm using the term wrong. I don't know Reddit lingo. Point is gatekeeping, right? It's like the whole thing that like you're not a true XYZ fan unless you've seen, read, watched, played this, right? Fill in the blank, right? You see it a lot, I guess. The fact that it's got its own name for it now. There's also like the thing that if you like things like rom coms. Like I mean, I don't like rom coms, but like I can see why people like them. Romance, anything that's popular, literally anything that is, if it exists and it's popular, people
it's
will
a
considering
normie.
it
You're not really,
uncool
yeah.
now.
That's the thing with the Marvel movies. It's like,
But
yeah,
my thing is, I think being I'm just going to refer to them as normie, not as a derogatory. Yeah, I can't pronounce that derogatory term, not as that, but quite literally, I think that's the term used nowadays. So I don't mean this as a insult. I'm going to use normie as quite literally the definition of you like something that is very
yeah,
mainstream and
yeah.
popular. Now, if you like something that is mainstream and popular, I feel like that's a good thing. You know why? Because when you're the only person in your entire friend group that likes D&D, it's a little annoying when you try to get them into it and they don't like it, because then you have no one to play with. So if you're in a friend group that everyone likes Marvel, guess who you can talk to? Your friends who like Marvel. It's so great being part of the. I mean, it's. I'm glad I'm a normie, I guess, because I mean, I love to talk about Marvel. I spent love Game of Thrones. I love Harry Potter. If you're not a normie, then you're just kind of missing out. You have very niche amount of people to talk to. So, like I love talking. I love conversing with friends about different theories, different stuff. And I'm just saying, like, is it really bad to be a normie? Like, is it
Yeah,
like
no,
I
it's
don't know.
but yeah, that's a conversation. I don't know if it's for another time, but it's a very complicated
Yeah,
conversation as
but
well.
Spider-Man.
So,
What are your
but
thoughts about him
so
being
here, going to the official site for research, Twitter. I'm just browsing to my through my Twitter right now. Okay, and
Mhm.
guess what comes up?
What?
Um, uh, Spidey is home. Reply: Spidey back at his awful house with parents who force him to be something he's not. IGN: Sony and Marvel announced they will co-produce a film with Tom Holland reprising his role. And then the response: Look, Spidey is in quote unquote saved, cultists. What else do we have? Spider-Man is back. Oh, Brandon Routh. We got a little break of Brandon Routh. People talking about the Madam Web movie. Do you know that they're making a Madam Web movie?
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting. I
it's
remember.
cool. I think it's gonna be a open door for like a
Do you
live
remember the
action
Venom
Spider
Saga
Verse.
movie, the animated movie, the Venom Saga?
The animated movie, The Venom Saga.
It's a really old movie. I think it's also very cringy in certain situations
I
because it's
remember the episode of Spider-Man TAS where it was the '90s show where it was like Madam Web recruits like the Spider-Verse, like Spider-Man of different universes. It's basically Into the Spider-Verse, but
N-
the old show.
no. Venom Saga is a I think it's a 2-part or 3-part movies animated series where it's the classic Venom saga where Eddie Brock gets the Venom.
Oh, are you talking about like the episodes from the animated series?
No, 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 no. It's its own thing, I think, and
Really?
the movie thing is within the canon of another Avengers. I really don't know. Honestly, Iron Man showed up. I know that.
I'm looking up
Maybe.
the Venom Saga. Yeah, no, it's from the 1994 series. They just put it up and packaged it as a movie.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so the Venom saga was like I think that and the Raimi films were my first kind of like intro to superheroes, quite literally. Spider-Man was my first superhero. Back in the day, Raimi films, man, those were the days. But I remember watching the Raimi films as a kid, and I was like, "Damn, this is really good." And I remember watching Venom Saga, and I was like, "Oh, wow, this is cool." Yeah, but I think I'm
Yeah.
excited for what is to come. I
Yeah.
mean,
So
what?
I tweeted out just saying, "Damn, that's a twist. Can't wait." Because that's honestly, yeah, it's a twist because here's the thing. The more I thought about it, the more I'm like, "Oh, come on." See, I had this thing, right? I was like, "Okay, he's gone." I went through the stages of grief. And then they
You
come
paid the
back.
price.
I paid the price, right? I worked hard. I paid the price, and I was like, okay, we're here, and I was settled, right?
Yeah.
And now they're giving me a different house on the other side of the country. It's like, imagine I go for a job, right? I go for a job, and they're like, you know what? We're gonna have to relocate you to California, right?
Yeah.
And they give me a decent house in California, and it's pretty good, and they give me a good job, right? And then 2 months later, they're like, "Oh, actually, we're gonna relocate you back to New York. Your salary is gonna increase by a little bit, and we're giving you a little bit of a better house." It's like, yes, technically, it's better, yes,
Yeah.
but I just went through the effort of this.
I
Please
I
don't.
think that's a great analogy,
Yeah,
actually.
it's why am I going through this effort again? It's like,
Do you know
yes,
why?
I'm
Do you
getting a
know?
little
Do
bit
you
of
know? Do
money.
you know why? Here's my theory. Here
Do you
is
think it's
my
all fake? Do you?
Yes,
Because that's
yes, I
the thing.
do. I do. I do. I was talking to this about my friend who was the one who told me about Spider-Man being back, Tom Holland being back.
Yeah.
And you know what my first reaction was? I feel really weird being this cynical. I I am relatively cynical, and in this case, that was my instant reaction. I was like, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Marvel and Sony came together, had this fake conversation, but what it really was, hey, look, obviously where they started negotiating about price, and then Disney was like blah blah blah, and then Sony haggled, and they both haggled, and they said, you know what, we might get it over, and then we might break it, and Disney's like, wait, that's a great idea, and Sony's like, come again, and then they say, no, we tell the people that we broke the deal, right? But
Mhm.
while they're getting angry, depressed, blah 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 about that, we negotiate a price, keep negotiating, we come to a term, and then when we're ready, we bring it back, because you know why? Think about what happened. Think about it, like financially, business wise, like logistically. What they did was, without quite literally any effort or new content, they refueled the hype for Spider-Man.
They
with
see.
no
Here's the thing. Here's what I like. I understand the sentiment you're giving, but here's what I sort of think what happened. Okay, and I want to reference back to another big scandal that happened involving Disney earlier, and that's the James Gunn controversy. You remember the
Right.
James Gunn controversy, right?
I just know very little about it. I just know that
Yeah,
he said something like a while back
yeah.
and then he got
So what
fired for it.
so what happened is
So wait, did they really fire him over something that he said? Like, I don't really
yeah. So
know how that
that's what I
works.
want to talk about. So he tweeted out 6 years ago some weird tweets that are slightly mildly offensive. Not mildly offensive. They are offensive. He thought they were funny at the time, right? And
Okay.
then James Gunn came out and he apologized for those tweets, right?
Right.
In style of literally almost so many
Okay,
mainstream
but
celebrities.
was it like an actual apology or was it like one of
It was
those
an
like
actual it was an actual apology. And then Disney, Alan Horn, and Bob Iger, and all those people were like, "We can't work with this person, and we're firing him. He's not going to be
wait,
directing."
why did they hire him in the first place then? I thought like
We don't know. We don't know. But there was, of course, there was a fan outcry, right? People were like, "Okay, yes, we understand that." Some people, a lot of the more of the mainstream people were like, yeah, but don't you think he deserves like some form of a kick in the head to say, see, this is what happens when you do stuff like that? And then a lot of the fans were like, no, but but like he's produced so much good content for like this thing, so it doesn't make any sense for to do this. And he's also such a good person now. And then Dave Batista had the whole thing where he's like, if he doesn't come back, I'm not coming back. And the cast of the movie signed a petition saying, I believe that I believe in James Gunn, sort of like I believe in Harvey Dent, sort of thing. And
yeah.
then it was announced like a couple months later that he was going to be directing a Suicide Squad movie. And when I
Oh.
heard this news, I was like, no, he's not. He's not directing it. Why would he accept that if he was trying to get back to Disney, right? It doesn't make sense, right? It's like
Mhm.
why? Because I thought it was sort of like I thought he was going to come back. I thought he was going to come back,
Wait, isn't he
and
back though? Isn't he back?
he's back. He's back, of course.
Oh, okay.
But like I thought he was going to come back, so I was right. So then when the Suicide Squad thing came out, I was like, what? That doesn't. Why would he go in? Because there's a difference between going around and talking shit and actually
Mhm.
going and signing a contract with the competitor company to direct a movie that is almost the same as like the Suicide Squad is a group of ragtag people, most of them criminals who are being controlled to do something, right? Which is more or less some of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're going off to direct the Joss Whedon thing. Him directing Justice League was, we knew that Joss Whedon had quit the MCU. We knew he wasn't coming back or anything like that. But like with this, it was uncertain, so it didn't make in my sense. I was like, if he's gonna come back, why would he do this? And so my belief in James Gunn coming back reduced, and I was like, maybe they will get someone like Taika or someone to direct this movie.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, they were like, nope, we got him back. And here's the thing. And I was like, oh wow, that's like, damn, they did it right. And
Right.
after analyzing that, I was like, you know what? This tea, right? It was real. It was real. It was
Right.
it was most definitely real. They definitely, Alan Horn, Bob Iger, someone over there definitely made a decision to say, yeah, no, we're not going to do this. And then Kevin Feige metaphorically slapped him in the face and went, "This is the guy who's been helping me with all of this shit. We need him
Right.
back." And it took them too long to get him back
Right.
because he already had commitments, but at least he's back now, right?
Right. Right.
Here's the thing with the Spider-Man shit. Nothing like that happened. There was just a lot of tongue-in-cheek talk, and
Yeah.
the Sony CEO just randomly talking shit about Kevin Feige, going like, we can do this," or like literally the Sony Pictures chairman or the Tom Rothman or something. He was like, "We can do this by ourselves. We don't need Kevin Feige." That's almost word for word what he said. And
Mhm.
that's like he's trying to draw attention to that because he's like, see, all of the shit is going down. But did they ever like they were like, oh, we might get John. We're fighting over John Watts, stuff like that, or we're gonna. But there was nothing going like, okay, we have now done this, and we're going. There was no confirmation saying we're going to do a Venom crossover. We're going to do a Spider-Man crossover. They were just like, we will be planning on doing things with characters now that we have characters.
Right.
And Disney also wasn't talking about. They had none of their plans were influenced. If Disney came out and said, you know, we know that stuff went on with the Spider-Man stuff, but we're going to focus on Miss Marvel now, or we're going to have a thing on, you know, Captain Marvel being a huge character, or we're going to do a thing where we're bringing in a new Iron Man, or we're
Right.
gonna if they did some action on that to like find something to sort of be a replacement, because you need a replacement for that. That's a big amount of budget that's being put into like Disney and Kevin Feige to be like, you're just gonna lose that such a major project. Like, I know it's Disney and they have all sorts of shit, but Spider-Man is huge. You need something to
Yeah.
sort of make up for that. But nothing happened. Nothing happened. Quite literally, nothing happened other than talk online and Jeremy Conrad like doing a release the Snyder Cut sort of petition about like, don't boycott Sony until something happens. It was purely I I I don't know how much I think I agree that like they never were like 100% leave. They were still in negotiations. I think the
Yeah.
entire time they were in negotiations. However, I would like to believe for something like this, it wasn't orchestrated. It wasn't Disney going, we're gonna do this and it's gonna be some drama and then we're gonna I would like to believe that. Just because, you know, they did actively talk shit about each other. And I'm
Hmm.
like, if you're gonna actively talk shit, there has to be some basis for that.
Yeah.
And they're like, I feel like Kevin Feige, like when you look at Kevin Feige is honest with the fans and with so many of the interviewers and stuff. He's one of the best people you can interview, I think. And he was honest with people saying like, you know, Spidey's gone, but you know, we have a lot of other characters and I'm happy to see whatever happens with the character, right? He was being honest, right? With
Hmm.
that. And
Right.
that's probably because he wasn't, I mean, he was kept in the loop, but he wasn't kept in he probably couldn't talk about all the negotiations and everything going on because I mean, I think the negotiations were ongoing. Disney thought I don't think Sony really had anything to benefit from this entire thing. Like I the fanboy, right, who has
Hmm.
problems with MCU Spider-Man. Um I do have lots of problems about Spider-Man, and most of them, if not all of them, most of them are reflected by like, you know, High Tops videos and Brown Tables videos and stuff like that, Troy Boyos videos. But like, because I highly agree with a lot of those statements. But regardless of all of that, it was like though I'm the only person who's going to be like, I'm looking forward to this. Most of the people are like, oh, come on, I wanted to see Spider-Man with like Doctor Strange, and I want to see Spider-Man with all of these other characters, and it's like,
Right.
well, I can't now. So Sony had nothing to benefit from this, and I feel like people are like, Sony thought they could negotiate, and Disney thought they could negotiate. I think purely it was Disney's way of negotiating. Um, the thing that doesn't make sense to me amongst all of that's not being talked about. This is more of a technical thing. I don't know if you know about this, Scribe, but
Hmm.
do you know the actual numbers that were being tossed around?
Oh no, I wouldn't know
So
that.
so basically the full story that I know so far is that Disney came to the table saying that, you know, we're getting 50% and we're getting or no we're getting 5% of all the box office revenue, right?
Hmm.
And we want more, right? We will 50-50 this thing. We will 50-50 this bitch. We will co-finance it. So half of the producing and stuff is coming from us, but we're also
Hmm.
getting half of the profits. That's what we want to do. And Sony was like, "No, this is our biggest IP." Right? Which makes sense. If you're a relatively like compared to Disney, you are a small company
Hmm.
and you want to keep all of that. So they didn't go for that. And the thing that doesn't make sense to me is supposedly the reports show that Sony went back to the table saying we'll do 30% instead. To me, that seems unrealistic. I feel like
Right.
as a company, you wouldn't do that because you could make $1 billion with something like Far From Home, but then that gets reduced to $700 million, which
Mhm.
is for a Spider-Man movie. It's still a good amount, but it's not as much as $1 billion. It's not the box office hit that Far From Home was. So
Right.
I think what probably happened is Disney came to the table with 50-50. Sony was like, I don't think that's a good idea. Then Disney came back to the table with 30%. And then Sony was like, this is you seem way too adamant about this. I don't think we're going to go with this. And then Disney or some PR person somewhere was like, oh shit, they're negotiating. Oh no, he's probably not coming back. Spider-Man's out of the MCU.
Right.
And it's like, because the big thing that no one talks about is like, when was Spider-Man out of the MCU? No one started developing the third Spider-Man movie.
Right.
No one started developing new Avengers movies saying we're not going to put Spider-Man in it. No one started doing the creative for none of these things started. It was purely just talk. It was all talk. So many people going, "Oh my god, Spider-Man is out of the MCU. He's out of the MCU." Is like, "No, he's not out of the MCU. None of the if someone is creating a Spider-Man Venom movie or is writing one and was set to direct one in a couple of months and it's a Spider-Man Venom movie that has nothing to do with the MCU, then yes, Spider-Man is officially out of the MCU. But no one started Spider-Man is not out of the MCU until someone produces someone produces a movie or even a TV show that's about Spider-Man not being in the MCU.
Right.
So when everyone is going crazy about oh he's back and it's like nothing happened. Like this is negotiation. And I'm sorry, Scribe. I've sort of been going on a rant all this time about this.
No, no,
Um,
it's okay.
but I not to put myself on some high pedestal, but I feel like I've addressed a couple of points that not a lot of people are addressing. Is the fact that the main thing is that it's like Spider-Man was not out of the MCU. It was always a we're not sure where the creative is going with this character.
Yeah.
And now we know that it's going to be they're saying they're going to make a movie in 2021 and it's going to be Spider-Man in the MCU and it's going to be 30% goes to or 25% goes to um Disney and the 75% goes to Sony, which I think is a bad deal for Sony.
Yeah.
But it's weird, and I think yeah, I saw this is somewhat unrelated, but I saw a tweet. I saw a tweet. I don't know who tweeted it out, but they were talking about how you know, so what's gonna happen is or actually this is not I'll get to that later. But
Right.
basically, my main point is that I this showed like I never thought that like you would even know from my discussions that like studio interference like is sometimes a good thing for movies being made. Like sometimes you need someone to keep a creator in check to not make them go overboard. Like
Star Wars original trilogy.
yeah, it's like sometimes that's a very good thing, but this entire thing has shown me that you know
Well,
until
as I say, there's good and bad eggs in every batch.
yeah
And not every not all studio interferences are good, but not all studio interferences are bad. I mean, it just because one was good doesn't mean they'll all be good, and doesn't mean one was bad they'll all be bad. It's anecdotal, so it's case by case. So
yeah
it's also opinionated because some people might say this is good, because now there's a lot more hype for Spider-Man. As I said, I mean, the entire weekend is going to be filled with Spider-Man memes and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's
And
gonna be a ton of Spider-Man content.
you'd be surprised how much memes have effect. I know people take it as jokes, but you'd be surprised. I mean, everyone will be talking about this for the whole weekend, right? And
Yeah,
now essentially Disney and Sony, for that matter, whatever, both are gonna get money in some way. Have you kind of by the throat in saying that we're gonna give you Spider-Man content, and you're gonna freaking love it, because the alternative was you losing these wonderful character moments like
yeah,
Doctor Strange, Spider-Man. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I'm just saying like it
yeah,
could happen. But
yeah.
that leads me to believe I have a very I don't know, I haven't heard this opinion.
Yeah, what's your
Tossed.
take on this? I went on a rant about
Well, my
the
my take
MCU,
is a
but I think the
little.
big.
I think I've
I
said
mean,
kind of what I
before you
had.
go, I do want.
I've kind of
Yeah,
said
I
what
mean,
I've had to, but I will say this. I
you,
will say this.
before you,
There's
wait,
one.
wait, wait, wait. But before you elaborate, I just want to make the big thesis of what I want to say is just that,
Right.
you know, the MCU, Spider-Man never really left the MCU. Spider-Man only leaves the MCU when someone tries to make a project with him not in the MCU. And
Yeah.
that's my big thing, and that's what I want people to take away from this, is just
Yeah.
that nothing was really going on in the first place.
Now, do you want to know my personal opinion for like the long term, like as in MCU, like if I was the like if I was Kevin Feige, right?
Yeah.
Now I think I've talked to you about this back when Endgame came out. Here's what I said very briefly. From a narrative perspective, Endgame, it was, the end game.
The
I
end
think
game, yeah.
they should stop. They should stop making movies. And I know a lot of people were like, "No, we want to see these movies." I'm like, "Yeah, I know you do, but I'm speaking from a storyteller's perspective. Everything is tied up, right? Technically, I know Spider-Man 2, Far From Home hadn't come out at that time. There was more to do, but if you think about it, Spider-Man Far From Home started new arcs for Spider-Man. Spider-Man Homecoming was the definitive
Yeah.
Spider-Man movie for that one, is a standalone,
Yeah, but
really,
I
if you
mean,
think about it.
even including Spider-Man Far From Home, the only arcs that started for anyone was like, I guess Nick Fury, but not really, and
Yeah,
then
well, well,
Spider-Man.
well
The other Avengers were left untouched. The movie was very much a Spider-Man movie,
right,
right?
right. Now, you see, here's the thing. Here's what I said in Endgame, right? That everyone's arc, Black Panther, Captain Marvel. Technically, I mean, you could do more with her, but
You could do
I'm
more
saying.
with you could do more with Captain Marvel, Black Panther. You could do more with those
Right.
characters.
No, but that's the thing. You could do more, but it doesn't mean you should do more, right? Because I'm
Yeah,
saying
but the
Black
story
Panther
of
was a great movie.
yeah,
Because here's the thing, Black Panther was a great movie. In of it alone, had a decent arc about a king trying to be a good king, a good human being, and realizing that his ancestors might have been wrong. It was a great movie. I enjoyed it. Captain Marvel, whatever you might have to say, it had a relatively self-contained arc, and led into Infinity Wars. I mean, sorry, Endgame. But what I'm saying is, for the main cast and for basically all the big name people, everything was done. The Infinity Saga was over, and my opinion was, I would have ended it. Now, as Kevin Feige, your job is really
to
first to make
not you can't
money.
you can't.
No, no, your first job, as if you really think about it, is to make money.
Yeah,
Now,
that's the first job of any producer. Is the
yeah,
producer is
yeah,
the one
of
putting
course.
their money on the line, which gives them an incentive to find a way to
Right.
make as much money as possible.
Right. Now, here's my take on what they should do after, you assume, and this is after Endgame, before Far From Home, and assuming that you have to make more movies in this, right? Here's what I would have done. I would have said, okay, fair enough. I'm gonna make one shot movies, and or aka, or not just one shot movies, but
Like
the
solo movies in themselves, right?
yeah,
Like a
solo movies and buddy cop movies, right? Because here's the thing: the greatest thing about Avengers, about everything, is ironically not even really the plot. If you think about it, the best thing about these movies are the fact that they're together. And honestly, this is gonna sound really dumb. Maybe some people can agree with me. I hope people can agree with me. But I would just want an entire movie, maybe not an entire movie, just a TV show, skits, right? Of just these characters hanging out. Like my favorite scene, ironically, one of my favorite scenes from Age of Ultron is when they're just hanging out and trying to lift Thor's hammer.
Yeah,
They're
that
just
is
goofing
one of the
around.
best scenes I think in that movie in general.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a decent movie. I know it gets a lot of hate, but I liked it. It was cool. But what I mean is, like, that scene was just so fresh and just fun, just fun. You get to see these characters what they might be like when they're not trying to save the world. And what I'm trying to say is these character interactions while in danger and out of danger is really why we watch these movies. It's fun. It's so fun to see Captain America, talking with Spider-Man for even that briefest of moments in Civil War. Where he's like, "Oh, where you from, kid? Queens, Brooklyn." It's like, and I want to point out to that scene, by the way, he said, "Where are you from, kid?" And he answered Queens as if they both knew they were from New York,
yeah, yeah,
and
like
not
it was.
like. And I just
Is
want
that
to
a
point out
plot
that
hole?
just
I don't. I don't know if that's a plot hole, but
no, no, I maybe, but I took it as Captain America grew up in Brooklyn. He grew up in Queens, judging by their accent. I know I'm looking too deep into this, but that was kind of
yeah.
like my interpretation. Like they're
Maybe
both
it's
from
the
New
thing that
York.
maybe that's one of the most the things I was saddest about like this. Not a lot of people have talked about this, but one of the things I really hope the MCU did that they didn't do is talk
Mhm.
about Spider-Man and Captain America. And that's not even just as like I know the argument is that oh in the comics Spider-Man likes Captain America and Iron Man. It's like I'm not even talking about that. Just like as a character, Spider-Man
Mhm.
gets so much of his lessons and his morality and influences from Iron Man that it would be more compelling to see him have someone like Iron Man as an influence, but then also have someone like Captain America as an influence who is on
Actually,
the other
here's
side
the
of
thing.
that.
Here's the thing.
So
Now I would have done. So yeah, that's a great point. I would
yeah,
have.
but then
I
again,
would
we're
have
not we're
done.
not pre-writing the movies. I don't know if
No,
we
no, 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 no. I'm
yeah
not. But I just want to point out it would be a great symbolic thing too, because remember the whole point of Far From Home was don't be the next Iron Man. You be the Spider Man that the world needs, not the next
yeah
Iron Man that the world needs, but the
as
Spider
he continues to blast ACDC in the jet. That's
Man.
I'm
No, but
sorry. I know we're not talking specifics about. We're not really
yeah,
supposed to
but
talk
I'm
about,
just saying
but
it would have been
that scene.
symbolic. I think here's my thing, right? I would love. I'm not saying they should have done this. I'm not saying Far From Home didn't do this, so I don't like it. I'm just saying I would have loved this. Like that's all I'm saying. I would have loved where they had old man Steve, right? Essentially teach Spider-Man or Peter Parker lessons, blah blah blah. Given the whole more like tactical training. There's a show called Ultimate Spider-Man, where he teams up with four other relatively
Yeah, yeah. I've
C-list
watched this
heroes.
show too, and it's
Yeah,
like
and
there's the scene where he teams up with Cap and
yeah, and
loses
he Cap is kind of teaches him like responsibility in more of a strategic tactical sense of being a hero rather than being amateur. But the point is,
but Scribe, Captain America is Chris Evans, and Chris Evans costs money. Oh, we knew
no, right,
that.
right. But listen. So it would have been poetic, I
It
think,
would have. It would
that
have.
Spider-Man would have been topped by two of the biggest
And it would have
hearts
been
of the
almost more compelling as well, because it's like we just saw Steve go through a lot of shit with losing his one of his best friends, and I mean he had the time of his life, right? But he's
right.
on the end of his journey. He's already taught Sam. He's already given his lessons to Bucky, and this is a random kid that like he knew a
Yeah,
little bit,
and
but has a relationship with
well,
someone he really
not
knows.
only that, yeah, that is true. You're right. That would be kind of poetic, but I think the biggest poetic sense would be that Peter Parker is the best of both worlds. He is the best of Iron Man, and he's the best of Cap. And
Cue the is that a Hannah Montana song? Best of both worlds.
wait, is that the lyric? Oh,
Yeah,
I
think
no,
so.
that was not intentional. I didn't even know. But no, but you get my point, right? He would have
Yeah.
been the best of both Steve and Tony, because they both were very flawed characters. And I'm not saying makes Peter Parker Mary Sue or whatever. I'm not saying give him, but he would have essentially
Randomly, he just happens to have the highest sense of morality compared to anyone else on the team.
Well, actually, if you really think about it, he is also one of the biggest moral compasses of. He's like the naive and immature moral compass, right? Because he's a kid
Yeah,
in most of the like Captain America is freedom, justice, and
he has a
uh,
focus on that to sometimes a too much of an extent.
yeah,
And
he's
Spider-Man maintains the
yeah.
the composure of being a hero to people,
Right.
no
Oh,
matter what.
by the way, that brings me to one of my favorite quotes of not just not just Captain America, but quite literally the entirety of of the MCU. It's from Winter Soldier. It's the price of freedom is high. It always has been, but it's the
Price I'm
price I'm
willing to
willing to pay.
pay, and I hope.
That scene, Mithy, gave me shivers. It made me I was never like I never considered myself a huge Captain America fan, right? When I watched the
Until
first
until that movie, yeah,
yeah, no,
honestly.
like okay, like I'm not now I know that's a I know that's like a very kind of it's kind of like give me liberty or give me death kind of statement, which
Yeah.
by the way is also one of my favorite quotes.
But I
As you can
mean
see, I'm
I mean to consider the whole thing, it's like not a lot of people read Captain America comics. He's like of all the Marvel characters, he definitely is on a lower spectrum than like
no.
Spider.
I wouldn't say that because remember, Captain
Yeah,
America was
but like
made during
no, but I'm
World
talking
War
about
II,
yeah, but
and
like
World War
current
II,
no,
the
no,
people
no.
read
Yeah,
him.
I know I understand. I know. And then that time it was big, but like currently, right? The comics that sell the most are number 1, of course, Spider-Man comics.
Right.
Then the Iron Man comics, a lot of the Avengers comics. Some of even the Hulk comics sell really well, but like the Captain America comics, they're not in the current cultural zeitgeist, they're not the biggest deal. So a lot of people's main exposure to Captain America has been in the like Iron Man. Some people have picked up an Iron Man comic here and there, and most people have read a Spider-Man comic, and most people have seen like the Avengers events and
And by
stuff
the way,
like that
most
from the
people
comic.
being people that are into these characters,
But
not necessarily just everyone.
considering people who have watched these movies,
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
most of them have picked up a Spider-Man comic at least once in their life, or like
right,
seen one, like in right, like
right.
so,
But
like
Captain America, I think here's the thing though. I will say this. One of my favorite quotes of all time, which I'm pretty sure was a actual quote that was said in real life by a real person, and I will probably butcher the exact wording, but it goes like this. It says, "I may disagree with what you have to say, but I will fight for your right to say it."
mhm,
Like I think that's I don't know. It's a beautiful quote. It's a beautiful thing. I just love any of those kind of quotes because it really emphasizes the nature of the kind of society we live in,
the
where you
power of
can
acceptance of whatever you say,
yeah
regardless of
you
how
can be
bullshit
whatever
it
the
is.
heck kind of person you are. You can be the most you could be whatever in today's obviously in today's culture we're more talking about like gender sexuality and stuff, and you can be whatever and it really comes down to your merits as a person and your because you can go up to a actually that's another thing you can preach, you can protest, you can do anything, and it's legal, you're allowed to do that, you can spread your word in any way you can, and it's beautiful. I mean, I've always been the kind of person I've much like Captain America, I have always been the kind of person that always stood up for the people being silenced, and sometimes for people that weren't even actually right in my opinion. Just I just hated the fact that they were being silenced.
Mhm.
Like you don't have the right to do that anymore. You can't do that. So
Yeah,
I think for that reason that quote made me relate with Captain America on such a deep level of freedom and freedom of expression, freedom of speech, blah blah blah. The First Amendment. But basically, just that quote alone. I mean, and plus, it was a great movie. That's another thing. Winter Soldier was a
mhm.
great movie.
It's one of
So
my favorites
yeah,
of the
yeah,
MCU. Yeah,
it's a very not a lot of people. Well, actually, a lot of people talk about it, but nowadays people always talk about the more of the recent ones. But I mean, it's just so great.
I think that's
It's
of the ones like there have been a lot of movies back. Like Iron Man still sort of holds up, but of a lot of those movies, Captain America: Winter Soldier is consistently the one that a lot of people refer to as the one that
yeah, yeah.
holds up.
Yeah, I mean, I want to point out the thing about Captain America is he is so poetic in the sense that if you notice, he is Captain America, right? He
Mhm.
is the definition. He is like the guy you think of when you think of
And
America.
yeah,
But do you notice he in his comics as well and the movies, he's almost always going against
yeah,
America.
and I mean that's the thing that High Top highlights, and I don't know if you watched his
I
video on
don't.
comparing the Man of Steel and comparing that to the Winter Soldier.
I
He
don't think
talks
I
about
watched that.
how he's like in Man of Steel, um, Zack Snyder makes a point to change Superman, um, but in Captain America: Winter Soldier, they don't make a point to change Captain America. They make a point to change America, and that's the big thesis of the film is that like in Man of Steel himself changes to the world that he lives in. But
Right.
in Captain America, they make a point of saying Captain America stays the same. And I think I'm quoting that from his video. They make a point to say that Captain America is still Captain America, and the whole final act is sort of about that. And his Captain America is still the best friend of Bucky Barnes, and regardless of whatever is going on in the world, he will stay that way, right?
Yeah.
He will still fight for the right to freedom,
What
right?
I love
For
about Captain America in the movies, with Chris Evans portraying him, with the writers writing his dialogue, writing his plot, is that they took kind of like that little goody two shoes personality of the comic book version, where he's like, I will, a little cringy, corny sometimes, like the Infinity Gauntlet scene where he walks
a
up at Thanos
little,
and
I mean, decent, very cringy almost.
yeah, but that iconic scene where he stands up to Thanos in the comics in Infinity Gauntlet. It's one of my favorite scenes, and you call it cringy, you call it whatever. It's one of my favorite scenes. It really stands for what I think of him, is where he says, "As long as there's one of us standing, we will always fight you." And they pay homage to that in the Avengers with
Yeah.
that old man that stands up to Loki.
Mm.
I just love that scene.
Here's a theory. Here's a real theory. What
Oh,
is
are
that
you gonna
old
say? Are
guy?
you gonna say? Oh, I knew you were gonna
What
say
if
that. Yeah, that's Steve Rogers from the future,
that
or
is that Steve Rogers from the future?
no.
I
Okay,
want someone to
one.
go in and like face swap that guy with the old man Captain
I'm
America
sure
so it
there's
can
a
look
niche
like
video
him.
that's already done it.
That's it. This is what we add to the pop. People subscribe to us. We come up with these theories, okay?
Man, at
Please.
this point, you're just being desperate, man. I'm just doing this for fun. I love
Yeah,
talking
no,
with you, and if
yeah, no,
anyone watches it, then more the merrier. But
no. But yeah,
anyway,
no. That's I haven't thought about that until now. Honestly, I like that theory.
you see, I'm gonna
That
I'm gonna
guy.
tell you this right now. I'm gonna tell you this right now. Captain America, right? You love him or hate him. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, he's
Love
too
him or
much
hate
of a."
him, he's spitting facts. He
No,
is.
like he's so monumental, and when it comes to like what a good person should be like, but at the same time he doesn't have the Superman complex where he's like a Mary Sue, or like, I know some people think he is, but I mean there's such a deeper underlying story with First Avenger, Winter Soldier, and Civil War. I know a lot of people are divisive about Civil War. I personally liked it, but what I mean is I want to actually do. I want to talk about a lot of. I saw this video where saying that Captain America is a warmonger. I believe that was the thing. Now I
I don't.
disagree and
I
agree
don't
at
agree
this.
with that sentiment. Yeah.
Well, I mean, his points are relatively um, accurate. I mean, they're good, but I think the analysis of those points lead to a conclusion that I disagree with. So I don't think he's a warmonger. I feel more of he's in the sense that he only feels useful and worth taking up space essentially when there's a conflict, right? Because if you
Mhm.
like, my points are literally exactly what his points were in the video. I feel like I think it should be decent of us to link his video in the description. I think it's fair.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I might link a couple of videos in this
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
I mean, I just don't want to take his points and not give him the credit. I think
Yeah.
you should go watch him whether you agree with it or
Especially
not.
since I don't I've never I mean we've heard about all of you. If you watch this, you better have heard of at least like High Top Films.
Okay, come
Like
on. Let's not gatekeep like this.
I
Listen.
mean, come on.
Yeah, but
Come
basically,
on. I mean, I'm being very cynical. No, you
yeah.
can watch whatever you want.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is I forgot the YouTuber's name, so I can't really call him by his name, but
Yeah, we
you know.
can link his thing in the
Yeah, I'm
description.
sure I can find it. But basically, this guy says that he's a warmonger because all of his scenes kind of point to that. Because the scene from Age of Ultron where he sees the his worst nightmare, and he sees the war is over, and that they've won, and that's his worst nightmare. Not losing Bucky Barnes again or losing Peggy in front of his eyes or any horrible things that could happen to him. It's the fact that the war is done. That's his first point. His second point is these are not in order. I don't know if these are the order, but one of his points is also that in Winter Soldier, quite literally, he states that I mean, they're implying that he has nothing to do. He's so bored with his life, and when the plot comes around, you can kind of see him invested fully with no questions asked. And then other things are the fact that he's going to war when he is going to die. Innocent first Avenger, before he got the serum, he's going to war and he quite literally wants to die. And that's another theory, that he was suicidal before he got the super serum. And I think that's the thing, that scene, the fact that his character is one that would be willing to die in a war that he believes in, but it, so my thing is, my analysis, and again, this is very, very sort of looking deep into his character, and I think it's fun to do that because you kind of get more respect for whether the author, whether not the author, whether the director or the creator envisioned this or not. It's fun to do it.
Yeah,
It really is. But
that sentiment sort of feels like something that would suit. If you guys have read or if you've read the Ultimate comics, like a lot of that universe's comics,
yeah,
this
yeah,
seems like a sentiment that would suit that version of the character.
yeah. Well, I
It's
mean,
not
did
like
you
the
know the MCU was
mainstream.
kind of derived off of the Ultimate comics? Remember,
Yeah,
like,
but like at least it was stylistically driven from the Ultimates, but
yeah,
I feel like as a like the
right.
way the characters act and stuff, it was very 616. Um,
Maybe, but the
some of
point
the
is,
things, some of the
the
things,
point is
not
the
all.
guy makes the argument that Captain America is a warmonger, but I think the better conclusion, in my opinion, no offense to him, is that Captain America is not a warmonger, as in he doesn't want war. It's the fact that his dilemma is that he's the forever soldier. He is quite literally the man out of time, not in the sense that man out of time, as in he will always be the man that is kind of almost cursed to always fight a war because
Which
that's
sort
the
of, which sort of honestly ties in with Spider-Man. Great power comes with great responsibility,
Yeah,
and the
except
fact
again,
that
remember,
he
Captain
has,
America is more war based, whereas Spider Man is more friendly neighborhood based.
yeah, yeah,
It's the little guy, right? And it's Spider Man is also really compelling for similar reason that in the sense of Captain America, it's cursed in the sense of way that he doesn't feel. Obviously, he wants to save people. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he only feels like he's worth something when he's at war. This is not going to be an analysis video, so I'm not going to point out specific things. I need to
yeah,
go through a research of that, but that's what I believe.
yeah,
Spider-Man is compelling because he doesn't have to do it. He's not forced to do it, but he does it because it's the right thing to do, and that's what
yeah,
makes these characters heroes, not necessarily their powers, although that does help.
yeah. Well, we've went on this Spider-Man track
Oh yeah,
as a
and we
long
said
thing.
this would be the beef of the video, so I don't feel too
Yeah,
bad about this.
yeah, I feel like, I mean, we have gone in derivations, but in the end, I sort of had an emotional tag moment just talking about, Spider-Man and everything that
Yeah.
has been
Maybe
going
maybe
on.
for
But
me, I don't feel the emotions as strongly because I think when I heard him, my reaction was again the cynical thing of oh wait, and then I was happy, but it didn't
yeah,
really
for
change
me,
my
like as I said, it wasn't even just about like Spider-Man. It was just thinking about like,
continuity.
and the reason I feel like that is like I had such like an emotional moment there, just thinking about, like it's coming to an end. This arc that I've seen, like I watched the Raimi movies, but like I never was like start to finish watching Tobey Maguire and this thing. I just watched them. The first Spider-Man movie I watched was Spider-Man 3. I didn't even watch it
Oh,
in order or anything like that. It was
damn.
just me watching these movies because it was cool. The
Right,
Andrew
right.
Garfield movies, be as bad or good or whatever they may be, weren't as compelling to me because I had Avengers movies and stuff at the time that I was focused on more than these. And plus, it was like I mean, I wasn't focused on that. I was more focused on Batman on Spider-Man in that time in my life. So I never really focused on that. But like the arc of the Spider-Man going until Far From Home is like it definitely was bumps and things in the road as me critically as a
Right.
critic, but the emotions that it helped me map through whatever I was going through from start to finish from 2013 or 14 or whatever that was to a couple months ago. So
Right.
that was more of the thing for me, and I felt weird when I think that it was just a play. Like it's weird that like a company like Disney is able to they're able to put this out there and then make you feel like that. I don't know if the right word for it is wrong. Maybe it's okay.
Manipulative? I don't know.
It's manipulative. I think that's the right word for it. This
But
entire Spider-Man thing has been manipulative, and it has given me a new view
right.
on how to treat a lot of press releases that these companies give out.
Right.
It's
Now,
weird. I again, the tweet that I was talking. What was the tweet that I was talking about? Oh yeah. This was about Batman. It was about So everyone remembers the Dark Knight, right, as being like this critical thing, right?
mhm,
Critical success.
mhm,
Um, and then Ben Affleck came along, and people liked him, but then the movie sucked, and it was like, oh, ugh, right?
right.
And then now we're getting the Matt Reeves Batman. And I saw a tweet talking about that, and they were talking about how, everyone is going to praise the Matt Reeves Batman and go like, oh my God, this movie is awesome. Which
Yeah.
means fanboys are then going to also probably go, oh yeah, the Dark Knight movies weren't that good. This is this is better than them,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I get what you're
Which
saying.
do you know what that sounds like?
What?
Do you know that into a starting thing that was a definitive version of the character, even though it wasn't very Batman, it was still Batman, and it was awesome, and the movies were amazing. And then
Oh,
the
yeah.
Ben Affleck was like, people liked him and people liked that interpretation that they gave, but the movie sucked ass and it was horrible. And then now the new version of it is liked by everyone, even though
Right.
some people are going to be slightly more critical of it than others.
Mhm.
Do you know what that sounds like?
Please do tell me.
It sounds like Shark Boy and Lava Girl. No.
Oh my god. My
But yeah,
favorite
I don't
movie
even
of
have
all
to
time.
say it. I don't even want to say it, but you get the parallels there. And
Yeah.
that's the way I don't think we should even say it. Like those are the parallels that exist. And
Mithy, I'm gonna
that
be honest with you. It's 2:29. My
it
brain
is.
cells are dead. Can you please
Yeah.
actually explicitly tell me what the parallels you're making? I'm
Do you
so
actually
sorry.
not do you I don't want to say it. Only I'll tell you
No,
the
no, just
pair.
just tell.
Are you sure? I want to make it like a thing where it's like you.
Oh, wait. Okay, okay, okay. I
Yeah,
get
yeah,
it. Sorry. So
yeah.
I'm stupid.
So
I'm a little slow. I'm a little slow.
yeah,
Sorry.
no, it's late, and I think we should probably start wrapping this up. But I want to leave you with that to
Yeah,
just
I think I
in
know.
in the midst of everything that we've been talking about, it's important to know, and this is what I've been doing the past couple of months, to separate the fandom from the content. The fandom, in my opinion, the fandom is a big part of the content, but because of all of this, I've seen it as a thing of its own. The content is separate, the fandom is separate, and I think that's the lesson I've really learned from this whole Spider-Man thing. I think we probably in future episodes I mean, all these popular channels talk about how they never want to talk about Spider-Man, and then they keep talking about Spider-Man. But
Mhm.
I think we should probably I think we probably shouldn't talk about Spider-Man as much moving on in this podcast, other
Mhm.
than if something comes up and we want to talk about it. So,
Right.
but
Right.
yeah, I think I think we had a couple of other stuff on our itinerary, but I'm sure that's fine. We can.
Right.
This is plenty. I think we've
Oh
talked
yeah.
about the meat of everything, and I think this was a good run. I like I think we did good. So
Yeah. I mean,
um
hopefully people like it, but I mean, it's about that time.
yeah.
It's about that time where we have to wrap up.
Yep.
Sadly, we love doing this because it's a lot of fun. But You know,
Great.
if you
It's
like,
late,
if
and now I have to edit shit.
yeah, and also technically this is your third night up now. At this point, I feel like I might also pull an all-nighter. It's about
Honestly,
that
yeah.
time.
You know what? What if we just? Well, we're gonna end the call. What if we just watch the Shane Dawson shit? I mean,
We
honestly.
could. Okay, I will say this. I need to do something that is very low maintenance on my brain.
Yeah, that's true. We could
Like
watch.
low.
You know what? This is something that we haven't talked. I'm not gonna go down a rabbit hole. I just want to say something we haven't talked about is the Titans show. And
Oh
I've
yeah.
been watching a lot of the show, and a new episode came out, and I think maybe I might watch it tonight.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I'm thinking the more I watch the show, I sort of want to make a video about it, like a
And we
video
will,
essay about
we
it.
will. But I
But
think as for this, I think we've kind of talked about everything that
we've
we
we've
most of
we've run the
important.
bucket. I think we've
Yeah.
we've talked about enough good material that I think I'll work on time coding this. And if you are listening, I'm sure there's barely anyone listening. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
Yes.
thank you for
Truly.
keeping up with our bullshit. So
Yeah, and we really hope we can continue this because we love doing it, and
yeah,
we really want you to like it. You know,
yeah.
so yeah. Uh, have a good day, everyone, or night, or life, whatever. Good one. Peace out.